Now we're starting chapter 4. Ba ba da ba 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 da. Do 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 do. Hi everyone, it's me. Now instead of March of Madness, because now we're actually out of the chapters where it's nothing but madness. We start with April Sorrows with Higurashi When They Cry, chapter 4, the time wasting arc. Himatsubushi, for you the final mystery. I now entrust you all with the mysteries hidden within Higurashi When They Cry. However comical it may be, if you have reached any conjecture, then you have passed. This final novel is a meager reward for you. Conjecture is impossible. You have the right to reject the story. Oh, that was a different laugh than the other ones. That one is like a little kid laugh. Who is the criminal, you ask? Don't we search for them in this story? Who is the criminal, you ask? Do you even know what the criminal did? Who is the criminal? Who is the criminal who will kill me now? Fandirica Bernkastel. Midsummer 1985. Now note, that is several years before Higurashi. Like, before the main series. I had misread the time and ended up arriving too early. The scheduled board flipped with a series of plaques. My flight to Sapporo is still a bit later on. I still had over an hour before boarding. Well, I might as well close my eyes for a bit on that bench over there, then. Came here directly from work, so maybe the fatigue from that was making me sleepy. Finding a suitable bench, I put my luggage on the seat next to me and settled down. I sighed like an old man. I had hoped to stay young forever, but had become splendidly middle-aged. Apparently, the rumor that even people in the latter half of their 20s experience a decline in their physical strength wasn't a lie. It had been mind-numbingly busy at work lately, so I really had any time to myself. This might have been the first time I'd been able to enjoy a journey alone like this since I was a student. The reason behind this trip was to meet with an old friend. It was a bit strange to call him an old friend. In fact, it would be better to call him a bad one. After retiring a couple of years ago, he moved to Sapporo, his mother's hometown. His mother passed away soon after, and he was now peacefully enjoying his second lease on life. His name was Kurodoro Oshi. He was a former detective from the Primary Investigations Unit in the station of Okiyama Prefecture. To be honest... this is 2 years after, because it's 1983. To be honest, the most direct contact we have ever had didn't last more than 3 days. After that, we exchanged New Year's cards, but never met again. Now this would be the first time meeting him in 7 years. In other words, we met 7 years ago, in 1978. There's something I just had to ask, to talk to him about concerning that time, to explain that it was impossible not to recall the incident that happened back then. That kidnapping, the details and resolution of which were resigned to darkness. Also, it was impossible not to recall a certain mysterious girl. My name is Mamoru Akasaka. It was a year that had been strangely hot, even though it was only June. Early summer, 1978. 5 years before Higurashi. Goodbye, teacher! Okay, bye. Watch out for cars, and don't drop it in a friend's house along the way. Make sure you get your textbooks in order for tomorrow before you go to bed. The lively sound of children running towards the hallway. Hey now, didn't I tell you before? I already have one of those. I don't need any more. The unique high-pitched voice of youth. The energetic shrill of the cicadas went completely unheard by their ears. Children, running home from school, split off one by one from their groups of friends as they went through intersections in the residential area. Even though there were several of them in a group as they left the school, as they got closer to their homes, their numbers dwindled. That's why the fewer friends you were walking home with acted as an indicator that you were that much closer to your destination. Later! See ya! Yeah, see you tomorrow! He finally parted ways with his last friend. A van was parked in a bend in the road. The window was open, the sound of the radio leaking outside. Must have been the news or something. For that reason, the 3 of them were arrested for traffic violations and obstructions of justice. Due to the protest against the Hitamizawa Dam project resulting in bloodshed when clashing with riot police last month, things have only become more violent. The police are therefore taking precautions against radical activists causing yet another incident. Last week there was also a direct confrontation with Minister Inugai on the steps of the Ministry of Construction. The boy's ears perked at the mention of the name Inugai. At that moment, a man's face peeked out suddenly from the window of the van. His behavior was a little different than that of a man looking around to see if there was any incoming traffic before he opened the door of his vehicle. His eyes met suddenly with the unfamiliar man. The boy panicked slightly. Nightingale, okay. Skylark, okay. They've secured the 2 blocks around us. We're good to go. The man in the passenger seat whispered quietly. Nodding acknowledgement, the man opened the door and stood before the boy. Are you Toshiki Inugai-kun? While asking that, the man peered at the boy's name tag. Toshiki Inugai. The name was written plainly there. The phone rang for the 3rd time. If he reached out, he could easily pick up the receiver. However, he was concerned that if he picked it up before it had even finished ringing once, whoever's on the other end of the line would think him a fairly cheap person. That's why he normally never picked up the phone until the 3rd ring. Even he thought it was a worthless habit. However, his thinking that there isn't much meaning in waiting for just 3 rings, wouldn't waiting for 5 be alright, was very much a reality. His mind filled with such trifling thoughts, he picked up the phone after the 3rd ring had finished, its reverb dampened by his actions. Yes? Hello? Hello? He knew that sometimes due to a malfunction at the switchboards, calls didn't connect well. At those times, it was best to hang up and let the person on the other end call again. Thinking that the moment he began to hang up the phone, he sensed that he was definitely connected after all. He felt the presence of a person on the other end of the line, keeping silent. Hello? There was no way they didn't hear his question. What was the meaning of this? It wasn't like he didn't know that people could use silent calls to harass others. However, he had never received a call like that until today. Maybe he was just lucky before, but he didn't believe that he would receive such a call on this phone. There were no direct calls to or from this line. Everything had to go through an operator. Therefore, there was absolutely no way the call could be connected unless it was verified there was somebody else on the other end of the line. That's why he didn't understand how to deal with this silent call, and instead settled into confusion. I don't know who you are, but if you have nothing to say, I'm going to hang up. Please call again some other time. Intending that to be a parting line, he made to slam down the receiver. It was at that moment the person on the other line spoke for the first time. You didn't say who you were, so I was anxious. If you're not Minister Unugai, please hang up right away. He couldn't help but be surprised by the extremely strange voice on the other end of the line. Was there a human alive who could speak with this hoarse and metallic voice? No, this was a voice he had heard somewhere before. This was the kind of voice that was in those lowbrow documentaries, and they used when they wanted to hide the identity of the speaker, wasn't it? The voice he was hearing over the line was exactly like that. Who are you? As I said, that's what I want to ask. Are you Minister Unugai? He, Unugai, hesitated to answer. Unable to discern the intent of the suspicious phone call, he had a vague feeling that something was off. He thought about hanging up the phone and asking the operator who initiated the call. However, he forced himself to restrain that urge, and for the time being, chose to state his name and listen. That's right. This is Inugai. I said my name, now you say yours. My name doesn't matter. First of all, let's begin by thinking about the situation you're in right now. Right now, you're sitting in your chair, talking on the phone, yes? Then why don't you try opening the lower drawer to your right? The lowest drawer to the right of the minister's chair. There was a lock on it, not enough to function as a safe, but nevertheless it was a drawer that contained some valuable things. That's why Inugai thought that the person wanted some of the important information contained within that drawer. Sorry, but I don't have any intention of opening that. I have no reason to follow orders from somebody who didn't even give me his name. If you don't open the drawer, I'll hang up on the phone. You'll most likely end up regretting that. Why don't you think about opening that drawer first? Inugai didn't like following orders from the suspicious person one bit. However, he was concerned of what the man said about regretting it, so he decided to open the drawer. He took the small key he kept stowed in his wallet and unlocked the drawer. His hand stopped right before he opened it. What if there was a bomb inside, and when it exploded the drawer was open? That delusion took hold of him. He quelled that instinct and opened it. Did you do it? The thing that's in there. Do you know what it is? What is the meaning of this? Hey! I don't think there's any need for me to explain, is there? I'll give you some time, so please think about it a little. I'll contact you again later. Now then, pardon me. Hey! Wait! Hello! Hello! The call had already ended. There would be no change no matter how much he yelled at it. Even still, Inugai Without realizing that, continued yelling into the receiver for a while. The drawer was still open. On top of the folders, crammed in the drawer, it lay there. Toshiki Inugai, written in plain letters on a grade schooler's name tag, just lying there. Enshrined there, completely out of place, as if it was cowering. This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons and organizations is completely coincidental. Do you remember, Yuki? This picture. This is where I first proposed to you. That brief moment before you nodded back, you probably wouldn't know just how much. It seemed like an eternity to me. Yes, I would have never thought the amount of time could feel like an eternity. Compared to how long I had to wait for you to propose to me, it was. From the moment I met you until today, compared to the time I spent since I was born, I might only be a brief period, but they were definitely precious, beautiful days that deserve to be called an eternity. That time continues even now, from now on. I wonder if it'll be a boy, or maybe a girl? Either one is fine. Boy or girl, either way, it's living proof that we love each other. If it's a boy, we'll name it after you, Mamoru. If it's a girl, we'll put the Yuki from my name into hers. Thinking about names is so fun in the end, we still haven't decided yet. There's still time to puzzle it over. Not that long of a time, actually. You see, Yuki, there's something I had to apologize for today. It's my job. Sorry, looks like an annoying bit of work has come up. In the worst case, I might not be able to be there for the delivery. It's fine. You have a very important job. What you do protects the way we live. Compared to you, it's nothing. Please, go ahead. When you return, I'll be waiting here with our child. Thank you. Also, I'm sorry. Please don't apologize. If you feel guilty about it, then you can just atone. If I atone that much, no matter how much money I have, it won't be enough. It's a joke. Now, go on. As I left the room, I bumped into an elderly man. It was Yuki's father. In other words, my father-in-law. Father? I don't want to intrude, so I waited in the hall. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard. Go. Yuki is that kind of girl. No matter what happens, she doesn't want you to hold back. I've forced Yuki to give up on so many things, to put her through this during childbirth, such an important time in her life. I'm ashamed. If you really feel that way, when you're done with your work, make some time for Yuki. She'll be happier than you passing your work off on someone else. Thank you. I know full well you do important work. Be proud in what you do. Yuki is looking forward to your triumphant return. Yes. I jumped into the taxi that was waiting outside. Compared to the time when I first got here, the numbers on the fare meter had grown considerably. It seemed the modest time Yuki and I had spent together wasn't so modest from an objective point of view. Sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead. No worries. Well, then off we go. The taxi jerked its changed gears to accelerate, soon burying the hospital my wife was in behind a throng of buildings. If it was to end up as a really troublesome ordeal, I probably wouldn't be returning for quite some time. To call a rookie like me, and on top of that, one who's off duty, it seemed that the section chief was calling for all hands on deck. The veteran upper brass gathering on an emergency basis happened occasionally. This was the first time, though, that I had experienced everyone gathering together like this. Whatever was happening, there was no doubt it was going to be something novel. Right when my wife was ready to give birth. If I wanted to spend the time to curse my misfortunes, I'd be here all day. Even the verdant ginkgo trees lining the streets that always brightened my mood seemed to lack some of their usual luster. Can luster be spelt in two different ways? Luster as in L-U-S-T-E-R and L-U-S-T-R-E? I didn't know it could be spelled two different ways. Eventually the government office came into view. Briefly holding my breath, I let the feelings of tension course through my body once again. I had to remember the work I was going to do was important, necessary, and difficult. I composed myself and sharpened my wit. Ready. The taxi stopped in front of the building. Metropolitan fucking Kasumigaseki, Tokyo. Chief, everyone's here. Asaka Asaka-kun, could you close the blinds? The blinds were usually closed when they needed to use the projector, or if the discussion was going to contain particularly disturbing content. The blinds closed with a satisfying sound, darkening the interior of the room. Immediately, the inside of the room was completely drained of the pleasant morning atmosphere, leaving behind only the cold illumination of the fluorescent lighting. As the supervisor ensured that everyone was present, he nodded to the section chief once again. With everybody on the edge of their seat, the chief stood up solemnly and began to give his report. Approximately 48 hours ago, the Minister of Construction's grandson, who is also the son of one of his staff leaders, is believed to have been kidnapped. It is believed that the minister, in an effort to resolve matters amicably, chose not to report the situation to the police and plans to accede to the demands imposed upon him. Seeing that approximately 48 hours earlier, the Minister of Construction's grandson and those of his senior staff members were kidnapped. The reason why it was phrased that way was because the person in question didn't admit it had happened. Based on the results of the surveillance conducted on the minister's residence, multiple suspicious phone calls from what is believed to be outside the city took place. The abducted child is said to be under the treatment of some illness, but there's no trace of any hospital records or witnesses to such effect. Due to that and various other reasons, we believe without a doubt that a kidnapping has occurred. Here, they omitted the details that brought this incident to light. If you think about it a bit, that meant that before this incident happened, the minister's residence had been under surveillance already. I won't use the word spied upon. Of course, there wouldn't be court approval for this, and it would have been very hard to explain to ordinary citizens, but it's quite an effective method to catch winds of incidents like this before they got worse. I'd like for you to understand that dealing with these cases before they become a problem is the job of the Public Safety Division. The PSD! Why is he just following their demands instead of reporting this to the police? The fact that a minister can't even trust the police. What is the world coming to? To be fair, it varies on the severity of what happened. It seems the group of perpetrators demonstrated they have quite a level of surveillance on the minister themselves when they conducted the kidnappings, enough to give the minister pause before calling the police. We'll find out right away if we call the cops, more or less. So it's possible that there's a mole close to the minister. Several of the higher-ranking members who seem to have experienced this kind of thing let out deep sighs. The cause of the perpetrators' their demands, as well as this entire incident, are as of yet unclear. But in any case, the possibility that this may grow to threaten national interests is extremely high. If their goal was to simply have their demands met for monetary gain, they would have been nice. However, if it's some political motivated shakeup, things could get a lot more complicated. Since we're not receiving any cooperation from the victim, it means that we are not privy to any of the details of the threats or demands. Due to the fact that we believe that there may be a mole involved in this incident, this investigation is highly classified. Only the people in this room are to know of this. Furthermore, as this case is our utmost priority, we'll be placing a hold on everybody's normal duties. Understood? After that, the supervisor continued on, tactfully explaining our course of action. If this incident were to become public, it's possible that the minister's political life would be over. I'll spare you the explanation of how the rest of the dominoes would fall, but in the end, support to the diet would decline, followed by a non-confidence vote and a snap election. And it might even expand communist influences. In other words, we wanted to handle this delicately. Kawasaki and Seiki, monitor communications from the minister and the child's residence 24/7. Find out what the minister is doing. Report anything that happens. The remaining members investigate whatever is related to the case as assigned to your units. Focus your line of investigations on the commies, reds, and confeds. Don't discount the possibilities of foreign involvement either. I've experienced one or two unamicable situations before. This, however, was the first time I'd seen them get so hectic. I didn't know Japan had a Red Scare kind of thing. I didn't know that was a thing during the 80s. Like, I knew that was a thing for the Americas, but I didn't know the Japanese also suffered a sort of Red Scare. Several sophisticated conversations were progressing without the involvement of a rookie like me. I didn't intend to be timid, but I couldn't hide my confusion at this unfamiliar situation. And cover that. As for Asaka-kun, I snapped back to alertness upon hearing my name called. Yes! You investigate the environmental groups that have petitioned the minister. Among them, there's a group protesting the Hinamizawa Dam project that made the papers. Make sure you investigate them thoroughly. I doubt this is the act of some citizen group, but we have to eliminate every possibility we can. Understood. So this is supposed... I know, but I didn't know there was actually, like, you gotta understand, for the Americas specifically, like, the history books don't cover other nations, suffering a similar thing, like the Red Scare. Like, that was a thing that I thought only kind of happened in America. But that's because I grew up in a nation that thought very highly of themselves, and still thinks highly of themselves, as if their history is the only history that matters. When really, I would have loved to learn about the fact that other nations also suffered a Red Scare, because everyone is just like, oh guys, the commies. Them damn commies. Which is really funny, because also during that time, that would also be when everyone was just like, damn, I can't say it, that would be... I'm only going to say this as quote of the whole thing, is them damn Japs kind of thing, because they think it's like, oh, they're gonna ruin our damn country. It's that kind of thing. So I didn't know that, Japan and other nations also were affected, by the Red Scare. Understood. So those who oppose to the Himatsubushi-hen Dam, it's probably best if you go to the location personally. Get some information from the local authorities. They're a fairly radical organization, so the public safety division there should have them marked as well. Understood. I'll head over there. Your wife, she's almost ready to give birth, isn't she? I apologize for the timing of all this, but I'm counting on your cooperation. We can't take our time with this, so we just have to brute force it with our boots to the ground. Yeah, I know. My wife hates to interfere with my work with her own circumstances anyway. Sorry, thanks. So then, for Kawasaki-kun and Seika-kun to help with support your... Yeah. It's entirely biased. I don't want to take a business trip when my wife is about to give birth. Even if I was a little busy, as long as I was in Tokyo, I could head to the hospital right away. On assignment, though, that would be difficult. Even so, I knew the work I was doing was important, and fairly understood that I had no position to be so selfish. I'd have to make it up to my wife by having to be away at such an important time. My wife, Yuki, would probably forgive me with a smile. The only thing she could hate doing would be holding me back. My male ego, though, at least wished that she would have tried to stop me. Sorry, Yuki. I don't mind if you always complain that their father didn't come to the hospital when they were born because he was too busy with work. The next day I took the bullet train to Nagoya, and from there transferred to the train to the Beep Prefecture. Getting to my destination by land took several hours. If I would travel by air, the amount of time I could probably get as far as Hong Kong. Beep Prefecture was by no means close. I never sat in first class except for work, but whenever I did, the seats seemed stiff. Closing my eyes, I mentally reviewed the documents I read yesterday. The group under investigation, the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. They were a group of residents opposed to the development proposed in the Himatsubushi-hen Dam project. The local protests were quite heated, and were getting more radicalized. Even limited to what was written in the newspapers, there was bloodshed that occurred during a clash of riot police interfering with the dam construction. Too many to count. The number of petitions, sit-ins, and direct appeals to the relevant organizations were innumerable. As an extension of that, there was a direct appeal to the Minister of Construction the other day. This is the reason why we were investigating this group in the first place. The land that they lived on was going to be submerged, so it was no wonder they were going to go in a frenzy over it. Even given that, though, could they really be capable of doing something like kidnapping the Minister of Construction's grandson in order to halt the project? From my take on it, I had serious doubts. This kidnapping plot was extremely sophisticated, and complicated enough that it was believed that there was some political backing. This wasn't something that could be pulled off by some group of local protesters. Well, just like the police said, the plan was to eliminate all possibilities. While I was in the Beep Police's reference room, taking my time investigating, the higher-ups in Tokyo would probably solve the case, without my involvement entirely. Even if that was true, I couldn't regret being away from Tokyo. While my wife was ready to give birth. This was work. There is really nothing I could do. Ding dong. The announcement that we'd be arriving at our destination soon snapped me back to wakefulness. Prefectural Public Safety Division! The PSD! The Onigafuchi Defense Alliance! Yeah, they've been quite active around here. The Prefectural Public Safety Department, the PPSD, already had the documents and a cup of tea ready and waiting for me. The short of it is that the group of residents opposed to the dam. Really, it's probably better to say that every resident living on that land that's going to be submerged is rising to action, though. Like the old saying, fight to the last, they're a determined and well-prepared lot. It'd be nice if they drew a line at just being a moderate residential organization. The stack of papers they had prepared for me in the document room was by no means thin. At first, they were pretty much your average citizen initiative, but ever since that incident with the riot police, they've started to heat up. Now they've got a violent mentality on top of growing increasingly radical. Violent organizations usually indicate ones that enforce their own ideology without regards to democratic process. Breaking that down, many of those organizations held extreme left revolutionary ideologies. Considering that, I couldn't help but be surprised that a citizen group would end up going this far. Radical citizens' movements happen occasionally. It seemed, however, that this group was nothing as trifling as that. It seemed that I would have to reconsider exactly what this Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was. The Defense Alliance's demands, in other words, the withdrawal of the dam project, how far would they go to have the demand met? The kidnapping of the minister's grandson was classified. That meant, of course, I couldn't tell the prefectural department about it either. As you know, there were arrests after last week's confrontation with Minister Inugai. There's enough reason to believe that they could use illegal means to assert their demands. I skimmed over the list of criminal records related to the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance recorded in the documents. The contents were all violent, not giving me the barest hint of a feeling that these people were trying to uphold the law. Could you give me a basic rundown of the types of illegal activities the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance are engaging in? The chief opened up a manila envelope, fishing out several unorganized sheets and spreading them out on the desk. It seems that raids on the construction site are the most common. At first, they were committing relatively petty crimes like cutting power cords, jamming locks, breaking office windows by throwing rocks. Of course, what really happened first were things like demonstrations, sit-ins, and distributions of pamphlets. Lively but democratic forms of protest. However, their demonstrators and police clashed, which started a riot, leading to numerous injuries and arrests. As from then on, the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, like their name implies, began to take a more demonish form of resistance. If the raids were frequent, didn't the local police up their patrols? Well, of course they were on full alert, but they were up against locals, you know? There wasn't much the police could do if they were sneaking around under the cover of darkness. You might as well label the entire map of Hinamizawa village around the dam construction site enemy territory. No matter how alert the police were, the locals would just show them exactly how easy it was to sneak around. Actually, it was after the police upped security that the protesters started getting even more extreme, as though they were being provoked. See here? Can you tell how things started to heat up? An office set on fire. The destruction of heavy construction equipment. Destruction? They couldn't have used explosives. No way. You see, they crammed the gas tanks full of sugar cubes. If they do that, it fouls the engines. Even in Japan, it seemed that there were people doing that to vehicles to occupying forces right after the war. Compared to misdemeanors like breaking windows, they were extremely violent and aggressive. After being toyed around with to that extent, the local police were completely lost face. The arson was a bit much. After that, the local police drastically increased the number of personnel that they had stationed there around the clock. The raids on the construction site quieted down a bit after that. I used the word quieted down, but that was still smack dab in the middle of the list of crimes. See, after they found out that attacking the site had become difficult, they started resorting to personal attacks. The first people targeted were the construction workers. After that, there was silence. What was being described to me was a guerrilla war fought in the jungle. Threats and violence against the workers. Harsh words and harsher rocks were thrown. There's quite a list of accusations here, but there's not a whole lot of convictions. Of course not. First of all, there's no witnesses. On top of that, even if we identify the perpetrators, they have alibis coming out of the woodwork. What do you mean by that? Take, for example, you're walking around Hinamizawa when a certain man stabs you with a knife. You remember the person clearly and even know his name and address. However, the knife doesn't have any fingerprints on it, and there's no other physical evidence. Well, you'd think that that'd be a run-of-the-mill case of assault, wouldn't you? In Hinamizawa, though, it's a perfect crime. Everybody is, the entire village, they're all in on it. To protect the man who is the perpetrator, they'll get their stories straight and prepare an alibi. To that end, they'll probably even forge some evidence. There's nothing they can do but put them on trial. On top of that, there not being any material evidence, though, people testify one after another to cover his side of the story. Any persecutor would hesitate to file charges. Not sure about murder, but there's something like opening a gash on somebody's forehead with a thrown rock or leaving a bruise after hitting someone. Even if you could single out that suspect, that's enough reasonable doubt to not convict. Every case is without a doubt perpetrated by someone in Hinamizawa, but they can't identify who. Even if they could figure out who it was, they're unable to obtain enough circumstantial evidence through due process. The villagers are all extremely well informed about this, And so the malicious, vicious, and tenacious personal attacks continued. The victims can't be okay with that, right? Couldn't they have filed for an appeal? Well, you see, about that, people on the inquest committee don't want to get involved with something so troublesome. They won't stick their nose in anything related to Hinamizawa. The inquest committee is comprised of a random selection of local residents. In the event the persecutor fails to get a conviction, they have the power to order a retrial. It's a system designed to assert the will of the people and the actions of expert persecutors in the legal world. In this case, however, being composed of local residents has backfired. They don't want to get involved? Why is that? How do I explain this? You could say they're afraid, since it's a little special there. Special? Is it an outcast community? No, it's a little different from that. Well, just thinking of it as them being afraid. It's a little hard to explain it just now. Oh, right, there's an easier way. Wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, he opened a file labeled as a list of members of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. The power of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, you see, is the fact that they count many people among their members who are influential in neighboring areas. Could you take a look at this? I looked. What I saw startled me. Prefectural and municipal assembly members, staff members of the Chamber of Commerce, an executive of business association, an executive of town council association, a PTA liaison. There is more than a few people with a lot to say with both locally and neighboring regions. Around here, you can pretty much expect your actions to be observed by those against the dam project. If you said something in its support, who knows how it'd work out to your disadvantage. In any case, every town in this area is being held by the throat of somebody from Hinamizawa. List of Inquisition Committee members is undisclosed, isn't it? There has to be some measure in place to make sure they'd avoid retribution, no? Well, it is undisclosed, so their privacy is assured, but the person in charge of that is from the Okiyamiya Municipal Office. In other words, a local. While you might expect some professional confidentiality, you can't know how everybody's connected. People from Hinamizawa have a lot of tight bonds in that regard. When you consider the obligations and duties people have to the region, the web of information thereby formed is nothing to scoff at. It's not uncommon for housewives in the neighborhood to know which kid of which house is in which grade and which school, what subjects they're good at, and what vegetables they hate, among other things. You see, there's a Yakuza organization here, with strong ties to Hinamizawa and the surrounding area. It would seem that they're providing full support in these recent incidents. They seem to be proving most effective. Gangsters? Siding together with the residents opposed to the construction of the dam? It's a little hard to see what their common interest is. It's not that difficult at all. You see, actually, one of the lieutenants in that gang is originally from Hinamizawa. He was adopted into a rather influential family in the village. Exactly what was this Hinamizawa? I thought it was some desolate, rustic village. However, for some reason, they exerted a strong influence on the surrounding areas, and had a strong sense of unity. They'd protect their village by any means necessary, even if that meant resorting to violence. The chief had said that they were afraid because there were numerous influential people living there. But somehow I got the feeling they were afraid of the village itself. There was something clearly different of what I had read in the documents in Tokyo. This was no simple residential protest against the dam. For some reason, an uneasy feeling began to nestle itself at the back of my mind. I chose the most basic way to ask my question. In other words, I directly asked what I wanted to know. Chief, this is just a hypothetical situation, but, This Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. In order to halt the dam project, do you think they could say, threaten somebody important to accomplish that? The chief replied immediately, It's possible. Truth be told, they already gone to the municipal and prefectural offices, as well as the local offices of the Ministry of Construction, and done things that could be construed as intimidation. Several of the workers' families have also reported that they're being followed around by some suspicious people. Well, that would make sense. To halt progress on the dam, they raided the construction site, destroyed heavy machinery, and lighted the construction office on fire. If they didn't have any qualms about doing that, threats and violence against people related to the dam would probably be no problem. But that was it. Even your everyday hooligan could use threats and violence. However, this time it was the kidnapping of the minister's grandson, an abnormally high-level crime. Not only was pulling off the kidnapping difficult in the first place, but so was maneuvering to have the minister surrender their demands immediately. There was no way this was the work of amateurs. Did these people have the power to enact this large of a crime? This is the heart of the matter. Was the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance an organization capable of pulling this off? In order to ask that question once again, I chose the most basic method. Again, hypothetically, do you think they could kidnap a relative of someone of political importance? There was no way they could pull off something that big. It was the answer I most hoped for. If that was the answer, my work was as good as halfway done. I might be able to go back in time to get back in time to my wife to give birth. That's how it was supposed to be, the chief, without a hint of hesitation, replied. They just might. There's no telling how far they'll go. Sorry, Yuki. Seems that my work won't end so simply after all. Oh! Asakasa-kun! Good work! How's the information gathering in the Beep Prefecture office? It's coming along. Seems I'll be able to meet with their local public safety department, so I'm planning on heading out that way. How's the investigation in Tokyo going? The others are progressing along, but the number of groups we had to investigate are countless. Time isn't really a luxury here. There is no new developments at this time. No matter how suspicious the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was, they solved the case in Tokyo. My job was done. It looked like my wishful thinking wouldn't come to pass. Hanging up the phone, I let my gaze drift outside the window to the valley of unfamiliar buildings. Kasaka-san? A car you can borrow just returned. I'll take you to it, so follow me. Ah, thank you. He showed me the elevator to the underground parking lot, where a battered sedan was waiting for me. That the steering wheel kept drifting to the left was a little concerning, but that'd be enough to get me around for a while. That's not good! That's bad! That's very bad! My destination was Shishibone City, Beep Prefecture, an area under the control of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. The Okamiya police station was right on the front lines. Whew! Lots of big words! But of course, I'm currently in the role of Mamoru Akasaka, and who is a police officer. Not directly a police officer, but he's as close to one as we can be right now. Shishibone City was, as far as provincial cities go, rather behind the times. Okamiya, recessed in the mountains, was even more remote. With little change between the seasons, all that was left was the tepid passage of time. It made for a rather drab town. There's no tourist attractions or local delicacies. Without even a strong regional industry, it was simply dull. Just looking at the monotonous and peaceful townscape, it was hard to catch a glimpse of the radical resistance of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. The atmosphere of boredom didn't hit the Okamiya police station being in the front lines of the dam conflict, nor with the numerous incidents I heard from the prefectural headquarters. Good morning. Are you here to pay a fine? No, I have an appointment with Mododai-san from the Public Safety Division. Please tell him it's Akasaka. My apologies. Please wait a minute. The clerk, who I thought was here for a parking violation at the first glance, after fumbling with an unfamiliar extension number, told the person on the line they had a visitor. Welcome! Akasaka-san, was it? It must have been tiring traveling all this way. Sorry we have to do this here. I tried to reserve a reception room, you see, but the counselor suddenly woke up and chased me out. I would hesitate to call where we were a conference room, as it was very small and cluttered. The cramped space was packed with lockers. I had the impression it was more of a change room than that doubled for one for smoking. Listening to his crude chortles, I didn't get much of a feeling that Mododai, who was the head of the local public safety division, was much of an intellectual. But I knew that, in exchange, he had both the experience and absolute confidence in his instincts. I apologize for interrupting you during such a busy time. I'm Akasaka from the Metropolitan Police Department. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Motodai from the Public Safety Division. Nice to meet you. I was threatened by Sankai from the prefectural gangbusters to be generous with my cooperations. Gangbusters? You mean the prefectural crime prevention division? You see, we're treating the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance as an extension of the local Yakuza. You'd have to be a newbie if you think that they're just a residential protest group. They said at the prefectural office, too, that the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was linked to the local mob. If I recall correctly, the adopted son of somebody influential was a lieutenant in that gang. It's the other way around. The complete opposite. The Yakuza put the protest group as a front to justify their actions. Just think of it like that. Completely the other way around. Motodai was just rolling with laughter. This is slightly different than the info given to me at the prefectural office, but somebody embedded locally would be more knowledgeable. While we were talking, occasionally some people who seemed to be detectives would come in and change. And one of those individuals, noting Motodai's guafs, came up to us. It's Oshi! I was wondering what you guys are talking about. Oh, Kuda-chan! Perfect timing. Why don't you join us? This here is Inspector Akasaka, who came all the way from the Tokyo Police Department. An inspector? I'm still a rookie. My name is Akasaka. Pleased to meet you. It must be nice to be so fresh-faced. Did they hire you this year? Couldn't help but think I was being ridiculed, so I only responded with a forced smile. I could tell that this new person was like Motodai, the type who had confidence in their instincts and experience. I really didn't like those types of people. Same here, my bro, same here! I'm very much about, book smarts and all that kind of stuff. But experience is good to have, but don't let it be the only thing you have. Let me introduce you, Akasaka-san. This is Oshi-kun from our investigations department. Regarding the S-file you're asking about, he's familiar with it. S-file? S for Sonozaki. If something is in an S-file, it means it has something to do with the Sonozaki family. It's something of a code name. Sonozaki. Trying to think of it, I remember when I was poring over the documents in the headquarters, there's quite a few people with the last name Sonozaki popping up. If I remember right, there's a Sonozaki who's one of the executives in the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. I'm pretty sure they're the treasurer. Two of them were surprised that I rattled off what post that Sonozaki held. After a moment, both of them erupted into laughter. Sasaka-san, was it? You're quite the studious one. Could it be you've memorized all the central figures in the Alliance? I wouldn't say memorized exactly, but I've at least read the list of Onigafuchi Defense Alliance executives. Well, who are the president and vice president? The president is the mayor of Hinamizawa, Kei Kimiyoshi. The vice president is the priest of the local shrine, Furure. The treasurer is O Sonozaki. The auditor is Makino. The Ize-lon is Y Kimiyoshi. The PR head is Y Sonozaki. Akasaka-san, you're pretty good. The pay sucks, but you want to work here? You're just the type we're looking for. By the way, Yoshio Sonozaki's head of the youth department. So close! Head of public relations is actually Todayoshi Sonozaki. Feeling like I wasn't being complimented at all, I started settling into an uncomfortable mood. However, I was becoming more and more aware that I was the weakest link in this investigation, so I just had to bear with it. I didn't mean for that feeling to show on my face, but the crafty detectives didn't let that supply. I didn't mean to make fun of you. To make up for it, why don't I show you around the village? For somebody with no feel of the area like me, it would be a great help. I couldn't have asked for more. In the end, the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance is nothing more than an alias Hinamizawa is using to deal with the outside world. I think getting to know the village should speed up your work. How about it? The residential movement, in other words, held influence over the whole region. So the leader of the movement was the leader of that influence. Just like that, thought processes in the region would become the overall personality of the movement. Just like Oshi had said, in order to learn what they were really like, the regional force behind the dam protests, getting to know the village was the quickest way. If you would. Nodding back without skipping a beat, Oshi laughed in satisfaction and stood up. If I took the information I learned at the prefectural office and from Motodai to heart, if my position was exposed, my personal safety was at risk. The opponent was an extremist group that had no qualms about using threats or violence against somebody. If my personal info was leaked, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that I'd be in danger, whether on the job or not. Thinking that, I felt a little nervous. These guys are quick to remember faces. If you're seen with me, they'll probably do a lot to hinder your work. This might be a little cliche, but put these on. Oshi handed me an incredibly suspicious disguise comprised of a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a mask. I didn't want to get all hot and stuffy, but Oshi's warning was probably right on the money. Considering that, I put them on with appreciation. I looked so suspicious that Oshi had to smile wryly. How much did I tell you again? Let's see. So the part where you were talking about how these three ancient families control the village? The Onigafuchi Defense Alliance is the same as the village of Hinamizawa itself, meaning there was a direct correlation between being an executive in the alliance and being a leader in the village, as Motodai had told me a short time ago. The village was ruled by three ancient families, That means the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was ruled by those same three families. What did the documents at the prefectural office say? About the leaders of the Defense Alliance and whatnot? The documents I was using were classified. If I responded to Oshi's question, it would be a breach of security. However, most likely, this man, I judged, was more well-versed in the situation than any of the documents at the prefectural police department, so I decided to answer him. That's the president of the alliance is the current mayor of the village, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. Oshi, upon hearing that, let out a small chuckle. For him to ask like that, and to laugh at the answer as if it was recorded in the documents, meant that it wasn't the case in reality. So then that means there's somebody else other than Kimiyoshi behind the scenes, contrary to what the prefectural office thinks, or rather what is commonly known. Old man Kimiyoshi is nothing more than a figurehead. In the first place, the post of the mayor in the village is nothing more than ceremonial. In other words, there's someone else in charge of both the alliance and the village? Would that be the three families we just talked about? Well, I'll explain that part right now. All of a sudden, with a thunk, the car suddenly lurched. The paved road gave way to a gravel one. At the same time, the scenery outside the window changed. The Hinamizawa Dam project must be withdrawn. Overthrow the shameless puppet of a governor. The dam will submerge the natural beauty of Hinamizawa. Protect the village from the unethical dam. Fear the wrath of Otoshiro-sama's curse. Demolish the dam. Those who involved must go away. The construction office must respond. The office manager, beep, must negotiate with us. Signs and banners crowded the roadside. Even reading the brush-scrawled words was daunting. It was as though the road just changed as a border for the different country. At that moment, I was startled by the car suddenly braking. Looking ahead, a barricade had been erected. About 5 or 6 protesters wearing masks and helmets to hide their face were blocking the road, yelling at us angrily to stop. What is this? A checkpoint? These guys never learn. Oshi snorted as he rolled down the window and leaned out. Hey, you guys, you can't be blocking the road like this here! As Oshi glared at them with a malicious laugh, they visibly faltered. Clear the way. We can't get by like this. Who would have thought it was Oshi's car? That panicked thought seemed to make them lose their presence of mind. If we known it was your car, Detective Oshi, we wouldn't have been so rude. Detective, what happened to your usual car? Is it in for maintenance? Something like that. I just can't get used to this car they loaned me. Judging from their brief conversation, I could guess that they were familiar with the license plate of the car Oshi normally used. In other words, if they knew the car belonged to police, they would have hidden the barricade. What they were doing was obviously obstruction of traffic, a blatant crime. Who is that suspicious guy? You, could you show us your face? The man glared at me menacingly. Wearing a mask and sunglasses made me look particularly dubious. Would not showing my face get me in the same unnecessary trouble? I turned to Oshi to see what I should do. Give him a break! He's still a shy little rookie! We just wanted to make sure he wasn't anybody suspicious. Hinamizawa's been in a bit of a stir as of late. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? The mask you're wearing is way more suspicious. Nah! The men and Oshi continued to talk like that, feigning smiles at one another. However, from the beginning to the end, I couldn't get over the feeling I was sitting on a powder keg. Has the number of trucks illegally dumping still not decreased? It's a real hassle dealing with it all the time. If the police could understand and cooperate, it would really help. During that conversation, the barricade was moved, leaving a gap wide enough for a single car to get through. Oshi lightly honked the horn once and began to roll the car forward. I could see the men anticipating glare at the back of the car in the rearview mirror. What was that just now? Blocking a public road like that? Of course it's a crime. Still, if you get worked up over that, it'll never end. Those guys, see, claim that there's an infestation of trucks illegally dumping in the village. The story goes, in order to stop that, they're halting suspicious vehicles for inspection. Illegal dumping? Like corrupt contractors just tossing industrial waste away? Their line of argument is that if the police aren't going to do anything about it, they'll take matters into their own hands. Well, the industrial waste is just something they're doing by themselves anyways. By themselves? They have a pretty good strategy. You see, in order to hinder construction, they've spread industrial waste all over by the dam site. Then, blaming on corrupt contractors, they start insinuating it's these inspections. They stop every construction vehicle coming through and interfere with them as much as possible. So then, it's one of the methods that the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance is using. With that inspection just now, this car's license plate has probably been recorded. It shouldn't get stopped from here on out. Those guys know very well not to get me angry. Nah! See, rumor is that they figure a collier is related to the construction in some way. Not only would there be checkpoints stopping it at every turn, but they'd be throwing rocks and planting road spikes as well. It's best you be careful if you're not identified. If they find out you're from public safety, who knows what you'll suffer through. Oh, she was acting like we were talking about something fun, but for me it was no laughing matter. It almost feels like we've wandered into a civil war in the Middle East. That's a good way of putting it. It's pretty much just what you said. Oh, she turned to me with a grin and a menacing laugh. You see, this here's a war zone. The car slowed down a bit as it went down a narrow road through some farmland. You see that house in the forest over there? That antiquated one? Looking at where Oshi was pointing, there's certainly an old traditional designed house. That belongs to the mayor, Old Man Kimiyoshi. You could say it belongs to the main Kimiyoshi house as well. There's a lot of branches, but they'd be one of the three families. The three families. The ancient families that control Hinamizawa? That's right. And one of the others is the Fude family. Their house doesn't even have a single branch. So all that's left is the head priest's family. Right over there, there's the shrine. He's the priest there. By the way, the Defense Alliance's office is on the grounds of that shrine. The office of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. If these guys were the enemy, it'd make the shrine their stronghold. Can we look over there? The shrine is the Fude family's private property, you see. Being police, we can't set foot there without a warrant. See, they've got a member of the Diet with ties to the village backing them up. Basically, being the police has its strengths and its weaknesses. Well, even when we talk about the three families, there's something from a long time ago. Way back when, those three families used to hold councils to decide things about the village. Meaning it's different now? You've got a pretty good nose. That's what I expect from an academic. The car braked to a halt with a squeal. Ahead of them, they stopped for several signs. Private property beyond. No trespassing. Beware of poisonous snakes. Danger, turn back. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1,000,000 yen! Signs were erected there with things that were written on them. The road was separated from the forest by a chain-link fence, wrapped up in barbed wire. Since this is private property, this is as far as we go. There's several surveillance cameras set up further in. Saying that we just got lost won't work with these guys. They're beyond here, right? The people currently controlling Hinamizawa and the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance were neither the Kimiyoshi family nor the Fude family, but the last of the three. Yeah. Beyond here is one of the three families, the Sonozaki family. They're the ones controlling Hinamizawa from the shadows. Among the list of executives recorded in the documents, the number of people with last names from the three families was quite high. Of course, Sonozaki was no exception. However, at the top was the Kimiyoshi family. If the Kimiyoshi family seemed to be in charge, the rulers behind the scenes were the Sonozaki family. The double-layered structure implicitly told me that the village had both a light and a dark side. The current head of the Sonozaki family is an old lady named Oryu. She's enough clout that you could call her April Sonozaki. Be careful, she's no small fry. She's enough of a VIP that even the mayor of the city has to bow to her. Well, in Hinamizawa and the surrounding areas, their relatives amount to a block of several thousand votes. No politician could show respect for that. In other words, that would make her the actual leader of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, right? You got it. Those words, Oshi pulled out a well-worn cigarette box. The suspected kidnapping of the minister's grandchild and subsequent threats. Were these part of the hidden plot by the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance in order to have the Hinamizawa Dam project cancelled? You came all the way from Tokyo to investigate this, didn't you? Huh? Ah, yeah. That's right. Something the matter? Ah, then. Is it related to that direct appeal incident with Minister Unugai? If that's the case, then public safety has them marked down on the watch list? Something like that? How do you guess them so quickly makes this easy. While exhaling out cigarette smoke, Oshi smiled broadly, like I had just pulled a good one on him. Or, so I thought, his smile disappeared suddenly. That's a lie, isn't it? Huh? I mean the direct appeal putting them on the watch list. That's a lie, isn't it? Oshi knew there was no way that Tokyo HQ would dispatch an investigator over something as minor as a direct appeal. If they were to dispatch someone... Fuck! I skipped it! Shit! If they were to dispatch someone, had to be for a more dire reason. He had figured out as much. I thought of myself as the type of person who doesn't let things show on their face. In front of this watchful gaze, however, I felt like I was thinking was completely laid bare. Oshi silently lit another cigarette, as if waiting for me to interject during this awkward pause. I see. So this is the veteran detective's way of getting someone to spill information. But as long as I realized this, there would be nothing more. If I didn't open my mouth, I wouldn't have to lose anything. All I had to do was stare out the window and enjoy the scenery until Oshi gave up. You really are bad at hiding things, you know? Being so young and earnest isn't so bad. Oshi smirked as he twisted out his third cigarette, while I tried not to let him notice that I had yielded completely. At first I thought I had won, but at the very least, Oshi had ascertained that I was hiding something, meaning that I might have to end up marching to his tune. Oshi started up the engine once again and began moving the car. If you'd just been honest with me, I thought I might have been able to help you. How would you help? If the cat was out of the bag, I might as well use it to catch some mice. Well, that depends on what you're talking about, but I might be able to set you up with someone who's knowledgeable with the goings-on in Himatsubushi. An informant? I see, is that what you call it? Why are you interested in my case, Oshi-san? Well, I'm the same as you. Isn't it our business to know things? Being able to meet with Oshi's informant was an extremely compelling opportunity. We were looking to recruit somebody familiar with the area to collaborate with for intelligence. In the end, there was no better method of finding people than asking. We were always taught, however, that the rank-and-file police were no better than monkeys. Unlike us, they were careless with confidential cases. We looked down on them like they'd run their mouth off in drunken stupor. Oshi was an outlaw even amongst them, and here I thought on whether or not I should tell him about the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. This informant, exactly how knowledgeable are they about the Onika-Fuji Defense Alliance? If you're from public safety, you know, wouldn't you? Something like that is something I can't just tell you. Protect your sources. That's the first principle of dealing with confidential information. In that regard, it seemed that Oshi wasn't one of those monkeys. Should I trust him, ask for his help, or not? It's just that you work for the feds, and I work for the prefecture. I don't think our jobs are that different. I think I can be of help. However, I had trouble believing this crafty old man who simply helped me just like he claimed. To be fair, I'm in the same boat. I wouldn't trust Oshi as far as I could throw him, and he's fucking fat, so I wouldn't be able to throw him very far. I could maybe lift him. I find it hard to believe if someone of your standing would help me out without strings attached. Well, it's not like I'm completely without an ulterior motive. As I recall, you guys have space in your budget allocated to play informants, right? Something you don't need to submit a receipt for? Just a little bit of that would be the cost of meeting with the informant. In other words, give the compensation and earmarked for the information for the informant to you first. Well, helps that the details of this deal are so clear-cut. Money? Money, please? He certainly was something else for being able to brazenly state his ulterior motive like this. Rather than him doing this out of the kindness of his heart, everything was a lot clearer who was being compensated for this deal. I feel like he was the type of man who's good at these backroom deals. Don't misunderstand me, please. It's not me who needs the money, it's the informant, okay? Well, in regards to the payment, I'll be handling the money. When do you want it? Right now would be good. If you don't have it on you, tomorrow works as well. I pulled out a wallet that was different from my personal one. The price was pretty much fixed depending on what kind of information I was paying for. In this case, the payment was up front. Also, considering the fact that I didn't know what kind of info I'd get, I shouldn't pay too much. When I suggested that, Oshi suddenly started stretching out his hand and tightly grasping the contents of the wallet. At times like these, it's best you don't be so stingy. It's alright, it won't go to waste. I understand, I won't be stingy. And what kind of information are you looking for? Depending on what you want, how we approach this will probably change. You swear you won't spread this information to anyone else, Oshi-san? I can't swear as much. I'm the same as you. I can't withhold information obtaining during the course of my duties. Oshi-san! I got it, I swear. Nothing here gets said anywhere else. On top of that, thanks to you, I can pay back what I owe from my mahjong debts. In any case, I won't break a promise that involves money. I was still unsure if I should trust him until the very last moment, but then in the end I broke down. Oshi wasn't the type of guy I could trust 100%, but there was no mistaking he had access to underground information networks. In order to accomplish my mission swiftly! Ah, shit! Accomplish my mission swiftly, Wow, that's actually incredibly hard to say. I have a little bit of a lisp when it comes to FT, because, like, even when I say 15 and 50, they sound very similar, because FTs are just my worst nightmare incarnate. I needed his cooperation. I set my resolve. I'm investigating whether or not the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance is related to a certain incident. Squiffy! Certain incident. There's a possibility that the Minister of Construction, a new guy, is being coerced by someone. Saying that's a possibility is kind of a roundabout way of putting it. It appears that there's a mole close to the Minister. And due to that mole, the Minister has been monitored quite thoroughly, and was seemingly forced to secede their threats right away. None of this was reported to us or the police. I see. So that's why you're saying there's only a possibility he's been coerced. In that case, it's a little strange. If the Minister didn't report this to anybody, how do you guys know about this incident? If we didn't spy on the Minister's private life, we wouldn't have been able to find out. I don't think we have to provide that explanation to the informant, so I'm omitting it. Or she was apparently caught on, and quietly chuckled that I refused to explain. I see. There's a spy close to the Minister, so public safety made it a highly classified investigation. That certainly isn't a very amicable story, is it? If this matter becomes public, not only would this affect the Minister's political career, but the possibility of there being a shift in the political landscape is extremely high. If the perpetrator's aim is indeed that, then this could develop into a very grave situation. Well, with the government having developed projects all over the country, they've headbutted with quite a few people. It wouldn't take much wrongdoing for the left-wing parties to suddenly garner more support. We're currently investigating what demands are being forced on the Minister, but at least we have a good idea of how he's being threatened. Oh, the Minister's grandson was kidnapped. They're denying it, but judging on when he was last seen, it's believed he's already been over 72 hours since the kidnapping. So 3 days. If they were just after some ransom money, it would have been settled by now. Maybe this isn't for monetary gain. The possibility that they're forcing the Minister to do something political is extremely high. That's something we just can't consent to. So then, the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was listed as one of the possible perpetrators. That is correct. Kidnapped the Minister's grandson, demand the cancellation of the dam project. What do you think, Oshi-san? From your point of view, do you think that's possible? Oshi seemed to ponder the idea for a while. The section chief at the regional office had responded immediately with that it's possible. But Oshi, who was well informed about the matter, was hemming and hawing. Finally, just a little bit. He said something that was really just a little bit strange. This was before the Meiji era, you see. This area wasn't named Hinamizawa Village back then. It was called Onigafuchi. This is what I heard from my grandmother. This topic was so completely and subtly unrelated to the subject of the kidnapping for the Minister's grandson that I was taken slightly aback. Onigafuchi? Oh, that's why they're called the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. See, the village of Onigafuchi was said to be inhabited by demons that devoured humans. Even now it's believed that the blood of these demons partially courses through the veins of the villagers. Demons that devour humans. Oshi-san, what are you saying? It's information. I got a lot for you just now. A little too much. In exchange, I'm giving you a little freebie. Oshi finally smiled, but it didn't seem like he was fooling around. Please, continue. You see, these human-devouring demons, normally they were to reverse as Taoist transcendence, revered as Taoist transcendence, and live tuckered away from the rest of the world. But they ate people, after all, so apparently they go to villages in the foothills regularly and abduct their prey. They used to call that being demoned away, or onikakushi. Demoned away. It was the first time I heard such a peculiar phrase. However, I felt something slightly ominous from this horrifying tale of demons abducting people in order to eat them. Look, you know how there's a common phrase, spirited away? When people suddenly go missing one day, they call it that. When the same thing happens around here, it's called being demoned away. How does that old tale relate to the matter at hand? Oh no, there's no direct relationship. I'm just making some small talk here. It's just... Ka-thump, ka-thump. The car shook. At some point, the gravel road had changed to a paved one. It's just what? That around here, the phrase demoned away is somewhat of a code word for disappearances and kidnappings. I just thought I'd mention that. I don't know if there's anything to do with the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Well, there's no deep meaning behind it. It's just... that's a little bit of history. Onikakushi. Human-eating demons coming down from the foothills and abducting their prey. Then, in order to cancel the dam project that threatened to submerge the village they lived in, did they demon away the minister's grandson? It can now! Then, had they already made an example out of the minister's grandson and eaten him alive? It's a bit of an interesting old tale, isn't it? If you set foot in the demon's village without reason, you'll promptly be captured and eaten alive. So don't go near Onigofuchi. Kids these days wouldn't have these superstitions, would they? Even amongst the older folk in Okiyamiya, born in the Meiji era, there's quite a few who wouldn't heed these warnings. Himazawa village was feared by the people in the area. I recalled that piece of information I read from the Prefectural Public Safety Division. In any case, we're in the boonies out here. It's kind of expected that there would be some superstitions around here. Nah. Someone from Tokyo like you, Akasaka-san? Probably couldn't even begin to imagine it, could you? Yeah, it has! To be fair, spirit is a weird thing to be turned into a verb. Saying you're spiriting someone away is weird when you consider it. Because it's just like, spirit is a noun, not a verb. And yet, you can turn anything into a verb. The man-eating demons, as a price for violating the sanctity of their village, kidnapped the minister's grandson and swallowed him whole. That ludicrous idea flew through my head. It was so absurd, I was half disgusted with myself. Oh, she was just teasing me. Stupid. It was all really so stupid. Come to think of it, by then, I may have already been seized by the curse of that dubious village. For me to realize that would take a little more time. I believe that would be the end of chapter 1 of this one. Hopefully tips? 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 Yeah, tips! It's tip time! Phone call with Yuki. Want to talk to my wife! She's in the hospital. Oh, really? It's tough when there's such a sudden assignment. Please be careful. Where are you headed? You're already there? Whenever I helped out an assignment, she would ask where. Not just Yuki, but anybody who would ask the same question. If it was a cold place, she would urge me to pack a thick jacket. If it was far, she'd warn me to be careful on the drive over. If it was just normal, everyday concern that led to asking such an obvious thing, I felt sad that I couldn't answer such a run-of-the-mill question. Sorry, it's something that you can't talk about, is it? Please be careful. Sorry, Yuki. At some point, you started apologizing right away. Even though you first started your job, you were all gung-ho about it. Yuki laughed as though she had realized something. At times like these, Yuki had a magical power to see right through me. It's already been quite a while since I was admitted to the hospital. Are you finally getting lonely? Don't tease me! I'm too old to get lonely! Oh, really? You actually like to be doted on, don't you? Don't you start getting a little faint of heart when I'm not around? Oh, jeez. I can see the little devil horn sprouting from your head right now. You've always been like this. You can't hide it. You can't hide it. If I don't play with you, you get all lonely. I can hear your tail wagging over the phone. The side of Yuki wasn't something you could guess existing from seeing her usual modest behavior. It was something she didn't show to anybody else but me. Normally I'd poke her to hide my embarrassment and bring to an end to the conversation, but I couldn't do that over the phone. Of course, Yuki was clever. She was teasing me because of that. I wonder when I figured out that giving you grief was this much fun. Give me a break! In any case, it's good to hear you so lively. I know, right? Did I cheer you up? I'd called Yuki to keep her from feeling lonely when she was by herself in the hospital room. Of course, that was nothing more than a pretense that I, being shy, had come up with. It seemed that Yuki had long since seen through that act. Yeah. Please phone again. When I'm not feeling up to it, I'll get my father to talk with you. Although if you're talking with my father, I get the feeling that you'll be standing at attention on the other side of the line. For a long while, Yuki kept teasing me without letting me end the call. Ow! So cute. Record of opening remarks. Chairman XX. Members of the XX Party. Congratulations are due, as we are celebrating 25 years since our founding. These past 25 years have since grown and has seen much growth in B Prefecture. The once quiet scenery of nothing but fields now has seen the opening of a new stop for the bullet train, and with the development of the highway, we've seen the rebirth of a modern city bustling with youthful energy. We've reaped the benefits of new businesses and industry, and with a special reference to the residents of B Prefecture having time-honored traditions, history and culture, business and industry, with these ideals in harmony, they have accomplished the growing of their city into one of Japan's foremost metropolises. Of course, the development of B Prefecture couldn't happen without the growth of the B Party. We have resolved to see every one of our campaign promises to fruition, reaching our targets definitively and expediently like arrows fired from a bow. With these arrows as the fundamental basis of the B Party, our members have sought to pierce the obstructions preventing the happiness of the residents of the B Prefecture. But I do believe that everybody here is unlike an ordinary arrow. While being used as unfaltering and straightforward, we have not neglected in seeking solutions that conform in the current day and age, while also keeping an eye on the future. An arrow, once loosed, can only fly to its destination. Everyone here, however, is no simple arrow. Even once loosed from the bow, without neglecting our studies, while employing new methods and implementing more effective and flexible ideas, thus being able to change trajectories mid-flight, we are magical arrows. The modern age marches ever forward. Sometimes it marches faster than time taken from planning to execution. The following part was not in the script. It is thought to have been ad-libbed by the minister. For example, there have recently been numerous problems with the Himatsubushi power plant project. Rather than forcing the project solely because it's decided upon by the government, it is necessary to reflect on and adjust to the ever-changing needs of the residents, the region, and the next generation. The protests by the local residents that surrounded the Himatsubushi Dam. These are the wills of the people of the B Prefecture. If you feel there is no need to listen because the project has already been finalized, then you do nothing more than shed a poor light on Japan's post-war democracy. The following is as per the script. For the last happiness of the citizens of Japan and the residents of the B Prefecture, please consider these policies thoroughly. I believe, however, we have all gained something from the flexibility and the foresight of the B Party. I've taken up much of your time, however. Allow me to say the following to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our founding. Chairman B, members of the B Party in the attendance, thank you very much for today. From the opening remarks of the B Party Prefecture Forum and 25th anniversary celebration. Fuck the script! Gears and Fear and the Taste of Honey. That's such an interesting title for a tip. The world is filled with people blessed with relationships. Of course, that doesn't mean that everyone's connected to each other. It is obvious that on the other side of the planet there are people laughing and crying who can't possibly have an effect on you. However, in the extremely limited community of the neighborhood, that sort of connection is just a matter of fact. It's quite possible that a single remarkable event could have a massive consequence inside a small community. If you were to increase that in a scale, a perfect stranger on the other side of the globe might become enough of a legend up to have the effect on our lives. Well, it's not always that way. Like I said at the beginning, the links between people basically aren't irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. Whether some household nearby is having steak or croquettes don't matter to me. When I put on my shoes, it doesn't matter to anybody whether I put the right one on first or the left. This much the average person can understand, but actually, in reality, this is the truth. The bonds between people are quite well defined. It's not just a matter of distance, of being far or near. For example, let's say that person A's actions have some effect on me. Even then, person B's action could have absolutely no consequence on my life. The reverse holds true. Just because my actions affect person A doesn't mean that they affect person B as well. Let's put it bluntly. If the bonds between people are like the gears in a machine, the gear that represents me meshes with some people, but is isolated from others. There are some who would try arguing against this. Those people would bring up the example of gears in a clock. Each gear indeed only directly meshes with one or two others. However, if you rotate one gear, the one next to it is moved, which connects to the next one, and the next. In the end, all the gears are moving. There's a logic behind this, more than enough to convince the average person. Why is the argument convincing? The answer is simple. The relationships between people are ambiguous and can only be described conceptually. How the gears are connected and how their movements are chained together can't be used as a fundamental explanation. So it throws a wet blanket on that argument. So, for the people who like that explanation, I'll use the example of a clock again to refute it. First of all, to say that this world is a singular clock would be wrong. That is, it isn't only one clock. There exist many clocks in this world, each counting their own time. If you think about it, the idea that this world is just one big clock is the height of arrogance. If you use the analogy of gears to explain human relation slips, then you should be able to explain it using an analogy of multiple clocks unrelated to a single gear. Neighbors A and B. A is a gear in the same clock as me, so it's best to remain civil. B is a gear in a different clock, so it doesn't really matter to me at all. That's the kind of clear distinction I'm talking about. You want to say I'm being malicious. Well, let's change the analogy to something more familiar so you can understand. You probably heard the phrase, a fire on the opposite shore, sometimes in your life, no? For example, if your neighbor's house is on fire, you could probably try and help to put it out, wouldn't you? It'd be awful if the fire spread and burned down your own house, after all. And what if the fire was in a town on the opposite side of a river? Would you still go out of your way to help? You wouldn't, would you? Even though it'd be the wrong thing to do, there's no way the fire could spread to your own house. Even if it turned into a huge conflagration, there is no relation between the houses that would spread fire to yours and those that won't. With this basic example, you should be able to see the difference between gears that are and aren't related to your own. Having said that, there's still a lot to think about, even without a river to divide it. After all, it's not a spatial problem like being on the other side of a river, is it? Huh. The chick in the trunk? What? Oshi, what'd you do? The car had stopped, but he didn't know any more than that. Not only was he blindfolded, but locked in the trunk of the car. How could people become this powerless just by being robbed of their sight? He absolutely wouldn't know this without experiencing it firsthand. He soon realized it was pointless to try and undo his bonds, with the confines of the trunk quickly making him lightheaded. He had no choice but to let this mild torture dull his senses. That's why, when the car stopped and the unpleasant vibrations ceased as the engine was killed, he couldn't help but delude himself that he was being set free, even though nothing had been resolved in reality. Of course, he was soon removed from that disillusion. He strained his ears when he heard one of the men who had abducted him, and an older man he was hearing for the first time, strike up a conversation. "Nice to see ya. The chick is in the trunk." He struggled so much that he's probably exhausted right now, but there's not a mark on him, just as ordered. Oh, must have been a handful. The trunk opened, letting in a blast of fresh, cool air. Even though up until just now he had been thinking about getting out of that stuffy trunk, when it was actually opened, he suddenly became uneasy. Enough so that he wished that the lid of the trunk would once again close, separating himself from them. Suddenly, somebody stroked his head. Of course, since he was blindfolded, he couldn't tell if the hand was petting him or simply elevating how easy it was to remove his scalp. Unable to tell the difference, he'd only freeze as he imagined the worst-case scenario. "Poor little bugger. You're shaking. Just stay calm for a bit." The older man said that kindly as he gently stroked the boy's head. "This must have been tough for you. But you see, your Gramps is a nice man. He'll help you soon enough." After hearing nothing but the average standard dialect his whole life, the older man's distinct intonation left a deep impression on the boy. But he had no idea what he was saying. For your Gramps to register as the meaning your grandfather took a while to process. Eventually the hand that was stroking his head loosened the blindfold. Can't keep his eyes covered. If he splits his face open, it'll be bad. And with that, we might as well take out the gag. He kept breathing like that. It'll be trouble if he yells. Even us. Geez, you guys don't know how to treat somebody. The main family said no rough stuff. You better remember that well. Yeah, we won't do anything stupid. As long as the kid cooperates, that is. The man's hand prodded roughly and repeatedly at the boy's head. The rugged hand, unlike the affectionate one that had been stroking his head before. Stay cooperative. If you struggle, there's no guarantee that what will happen. That cliched threat was literally beaten into his head. Ah, this poor kid! This poor kid! These fucking people kidnap him and then fucking make him go through all this shit? That's terrible. Kidnapping is terrifying. Like, I remember as a kid, they would always talk about kidnapping, and I was always terrified of it. But that's just because the concept of being, taken away like that was horrifying. Waking up in a cheap hotel in the city was by no means pleasant. I remembered even during the long camping trips we were taking during grade school, I wanted to go home quickly, counting out the days left on my fingers. Waking up this morning, I was somehow reminded of that. Was it a need to be with my wife when she gave birth? A particular type of homesickness? As a protected member of society, as a public servant bound to fulfill his duties, it was pathetic indeed. Those negative emotions faded as I downed my breakfast, which is surprisingly not half bad. And on that note, I'm going to drink some more soda. The meeting with the informant that Oshi had provided would be tonight. Until then, I couldn't just be lazing around. The Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was protesting the dam's construction in various ways. Included in this was a strategy for improving public relations, which would be categorized into two major forms: combative and peaceful. In regards to the former, as an attempt to keep law enforcement in check, they appealed to the public's sympathy by highlighting the oppressive and inhumane tactics of police and the brutality of the riot squads. The latter, peaceful route, stressed how precious the natural surroundings of Himazawa was, seeking people who would oppose the dam on environmental grounds. Both are really good arguments. As a part of that, the village of Himazawa had invited celebrated zoologists and botanists, as well as environmental groups, to advertise the nature surrounding the town. According to the news, in recent years, there had been a group calling itself Himazawa Nature Watching, setting up free sightseeing tours. I would have liked to take advantage of that opportunity. When I called the village administration offices, they responded that it was too late to put in an application for the tour, and they still undecided on when they'd be doing another one. Damn it! I see. So there's no applications for the next time. Too bad. Are you a member of the environmental group? Or somebody from a magazine? No, just here privately. Privately? Then you're a tourist. Something like that. It's my hobby to take pictures that display how beautiful nature can be. I read in magazines there are some precious nature reserves here, so I was looking forward to it. I knew there was an article that had something like that written in it, but I hadn't actually read it. Was this an ad-libbed lie not going to work? However, contrary to my expectations, the man I was speaking to laughed happily. Then come! The village is a little busy right now, but you're totally welcome here. In that case, I graciously accept the offer. Thank you. How are you getting around? Car? If that's the case, could I ask you your license plate number? No, there's no ulterior motives behind that. That's probably related to the checkpoints they had set up on the way to the village. If I didn't give them my license plate number, I'd likely be hindered in various ways. I thought about using the car I had borrowed from the prefecture, but I was lost on whether it was okay to tell them that plate number. If the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was behind this incident, there was no guarantee that they wouldn't be able to find out who I was. I had to play it safe, so I elected to refrain from using the car. No, actually, I'm not using a car. If there's a bus or something, I'd prefer that. We do have a bus, actually. The route's going to be discontinued soon, though. You can take that. It departs from the Okiyama station. Thank you very much. I'll look out for it. When will you be coming? Is it your first time in Hinamizawa? If it is, you must be unsure about a lot of things. If you let me know, I can have somebody show you around. Oh, no, I couldn't ask that much of you. Don't worry about it. That's just a bit of PR we do to protect nature around the village. Judging by what I said at the checkpoint, the villagers are at very least wary of outsiders. That's why in order to move in and out of the village freely, I had to travel with somebody like Oshi or side with the dam protesters. Having an interest in the natural environment surrounding the village tied to the peaceful type of PR that the village was using. I was a bit against having a watchdog attached to me, but that might actually work out in my favor. The entire village is fired up about the dam protests, so I might be lucky enough to hear some especially candid opinions from the residents. Given that, there was no real reason for me to refuse their offer. Is it really all right? If so, that'll really help. After that, I was shown the bus schedule and directed to which bus I should get on. Somebody would come and meet me at the bus stop at the village. After showing me around a spot I'd like to take interest in, there was no doubt they'd bring me somewhere like an anti-dam information center. Then, over a cup of tea, they'd try and indoctrinate me into accepting their principles and beliefs. Well, if I was their aim, there'd be a lot of freebies involved. The world was about to give and take, after all. I couldn't be going in a suit. Pulled some plain clothes out of my travel cases and changed into something more casual. After that, after calming down by watching some local television, I left the hotel and set out for Okiyama Station. The bus route that I was told would soon be discontinued certainly didn't look that way. There was more than enough trips on the schedule, and the number of passengers was by no means sparse. It was the main link to Okiyama, the only town in the area. The types of passengers that stood out were older folk who didn't look like they could drive, and housewives that didn't seem like they had a license. If these areas were submerged at the bottom of the lake, it wouldn't matter if there was a bus route. That's why it was going to be discontinued, in an unnatural scheme of things. I could catch a glimpse of the government's intent to cut off their means of transport to bully the village into emptying out sooner. Fucking governments! It made sense, according to the documents, talks about the Ministry of Constructions, and the locals broke down quite early. The government decided from the start to take an aggressive stance on the matter. It was like the fairy tale with the north wind and the sun trying to get the traveler to remove his cloak. Even their bullying had a meaning to it. The reason why the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance resisted so violently was because the government was doing unseemly things like that. I was somebody who lived in Tokyo, so for a village or two in the boonies like this to be submerged didn't seem like a big deal. But I guess for somebody actually living here, it could be a vitally huge problem. This route will be discontinued on the beep of beep. Thank you for your patronage up to this point. We look forward to your continued patronage on our other lines. Beep Transportation. Gazing lazily at the notice of discontinued service posted up inside the bus, I counted down the number of stops until the designated one. Along the way, we passed through the checkpoint without stopping. They knew what time the bus was coming, so they had opened up the barricade ahead of time. From here on out was enemy territory. My palms had at some point become coated in a thin film of sweat. Now arriving at Ukita Waterworks. Now arriving at Ukita Waterworks. Are there any passengers disembarking? I hurriedly pressed the stop request button at the designated stop was announced. For none of the numerous passengers to be getting off here meant it was quite a remote place. In actuality, the stop I got off on was so abnormally run down I could tell it was barely used. As soon as I stepped out, an intense atmosphere completely different from the interior of the bus assailed my body. Right now, Oshi or Motodai weren't beside me. That's right, at present, I was alone in the middle of enemy territory. My adversaries probably thought I was just an ordinary tourist, but there was nothing more than a ruse. But, if by some mistake my true identity was to be exposed, it brought back the terrifying words I had heard at the prefectural office, that if somebody was attacked in Hinamazawa with a knife, there wouldn't be any evidence left behind. I didn't seem suspicious, did I? My clothing were currently casual. I was exactly the type of clothing that a city slicker that viewed the countryside as a wholesome getaway would wear. A camera and a knapsack. Inside were various things needed for hiking. It was still only June. Maybe it was unusual, but the sun was shining down like it was already in the middle of summer. The fact that I didn't bring a hat must have seemed odd. No, wasn't something to be that concerned about. It's alright, I'm just a normal tourist. Just normal. Is there anything suspicious about me? Act natural! Proceeds to not. Asking that, as I turned around to look at the bus that was departing, all the passengers by the window were staring down at me, silently. They were staring right at me, as if they had seen right through my proud little outfit, just staring, looking down on me. Countless stares rained down like needles on me from the windows open to air out the bus. All that rained down were stares. None of them were saying a word, but all the more, their silent stares told me that more than a million words could. Hurry up and go back to Tokyo, you outsider. No, There was no reason for me to speak. My quiet voice was drowned out by the sound of the engine. The bus, as if to torment me, set out slowly, and after doing more than enough to intimidate me, sped off. A thin film of sweat began to rise from my entire body. According to the documents, it was a village that seemed wary of outsiders. Its population was small as well. If they saw an unfamiliar face, they'd be quick to identify the face as an outsider. On top of that, nobody had gotten off at the stop. The bus stop that I normally just passed on by. Somebody actually getting off here. There was no doubt to have drawn some attention. But this wasn't a slip-up. There were ones who had directed me to get off at the stop. There was nothing to worry about. I knew that I was just nervous. This was my first undercover assignment. My more seasoned colleagues referred to us as the new generation that didn't know how to lose their cool. But that wasn't true at all. Whew. In order to calm my breathing down, I exhaled the unpleasant air residing in the pit of my stomach. I couldn't help but pray my apprehensions would disappear like the white cloud from the exhaust expelled from the bus. There was a small shed there to serve as shelter if it rained. It was there I decided to wait. Inside the shed, one wall was plastered with posters advertising the dam opposition efforts. It's like the heartfelt screams of the villagers were recorded on that wall. Inside that shelter, I felt an inexplicable pressure. It wasn't like I had any real relation to the dam project, but still feel hesitant about being inside there. It's just how filled with the force of denial that space was. And inside that uneasy space was a girl. Inside that shed, covered in words written in broad brushstrokes, berating the policies regarding the dam and calling for action, there was a girl sitting there with a drowsy gaze, as if half asleep. The two images clashed so much I could only stand there dumbfounded for a moment, trapped in such a surreal environment. If I stepped inside, who knew what kind of oafish noises I would accidentally make? I couldn't be disturbing this girl's slumber like that. Having thought that, I gave up on entering the shed. It's just a sleeping kid, so why was I so worked about it? Finally I realized, this girl, to us, as a married couple, was the very image of our ideal child. Even after numerous examinations at the hospital, we didn't know for sure our child's gender was. Whether we could tell if they were a boy or girl was, in the end, dependent on whether or not we get the image of their genitalia. There was, of course, no guarantee that this was a girl. It was a girl, but things the way they were, the possibilities were high. Even so, Yuki had been saying that the chances that it was a boy or a girl were even. But in my heart, I had already said that our coming child was a girl. Since the day I decided that until now, it was so fun to imagine that our child would grow up that I couldn't help myself. Amongst those numerous formed forms, the one I thought to be the most ideal had materialized right in front of me. Of course, a little of it was due to the circumstances. In my ideal image, her hair would be on the short side. The girl in front of me, though, had long hair. It was almost as if somebody had taken my ideal and made some small adjustments. It certainly wasn't something unpleasant. Even so, I felt like I was sullying her just by looking at her like that. She had an immaculate, no divine air about her. The girl with an angelic smile with a yawn wide enough that you could see her molars woke up from all of a sudden. I didn't mean to peeve. But locking eyes with a girl who had just woken up like this somehow made me feel like I was playing a prank on her. I wasn't doing anything shady, but I became flustered. The girl spoke. No, cried out. Meep. Meep? Like that character on a show with the puppets. With the orange hair. I thought it was just one of those greetings kids did. So in order to prove I wasn't a suspicious person, I responded in kind. Meep. Meep? Meep. The girl stared at me dubiously with a doll-like expression. Cute, but cold and hard to read. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. There was, after all, an unfamiliar man in front of her when she woke up, who responded with meep when she said the same. Suspicious. She definitely thought I was suspicious. Meep. Meep. We were both at a loss for words. No, the only one at a loss was me. The girl in front of me, as if inquiring about my motives, stared at me intently. In the silence, I felt like I was the one who had to say something first. Damn it, this girl's better interrogating somebody than Oshi! I'm not anybody suspicious. I'm... Nipa! Nipa? What I could only describe as a cold expression suddenly blossomed into a smile, one that soon infected me. You might be familiar with the term angelic smile. To me, it was like the phrase was created just to describe the smile she gave me. The girl smiling while saying Nipa. Oh no, she's on to me! Probably wanted me to return the favor in kind. That's right, this is a kid's form of communication. Having the others emulate what you just did was a rudimentary form of mutual understanding. Nipa. It was a beautiful afternoon in the early summer. What was I doing? Nipa. Well, whatever. This is interesting in its own way. If making somebody happy with just a smile was the work of angels, then this girl was definitely one of them. I couldn't help but pray that my own child, who would soon be born, would grow up to be like this girl. That strangely gentle moment was finally brought to an end by the arrival of a car. An older person waved at me from the driver's seat, a dry smile plastered on their face. Hi there, good afternoon. Sorry for being late. You're the tourist who phoned yesterday, right? Uh-huh. Ah, yes! Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm running a little behind because of the farm. Hop right on in. Looks like the weather isn't going to hold up for much longer, so I'll show you around real quick. Huh? The weather? Changes fast around here. There'll probably be evening showers again today. If that happens, you won't be able to take any pictures. Come on, get in. Meep. Turning around, the girl was standing right behind me with an intrigued expression. Her body language somehow reminded me of a stray cat that followed you around after you played with it for a little. So charming. Ah, well, if it isn't Rika-chama! Praise be! Nipa! The girl named Rika, with an immaculate smile, and an old man praising her while rubbing prayer beads in his hands. It was a rather mysterious sight to behold. Are you going to work, Mikano? It wasn't exactly work, per se. I was asked by the mayor to show around a young'un who had come to the village for some sightseeing. A young'un who came to the village for sightseeing? The girl, Rika-chan, said it with a smile as she clung onto my arm. Well, yeah. I heard that this village is surrounded by a precious nature reserve, so I very much would like to record it with my camera. Even though I look like this, I really like to take pictures. Tomitake Mark II. Huh? Tomatake? Huh?
Mikino, is it okay if I come along too?
I couldn't. You could come along, Rika-chama, but there's nothing interesting to see. You should go play near the shrine or something.
Me.
A distinctly displeased expression creeped across Rika-chan's face. After being shown one's emotions honestly on their faces was a privilege young children had. If it's not too much of a problem, could you bring this child along with us? When I said those helpful words, another smile spread across Rika-chan's face with another Nippa. She clung to me again. Ha! Not bad at all. I want this girl to call me Papa. No! Father! Dad! Daddy! What am I doing? Ever since I met this girl, I was completely off my game. Just calm down. Nothing I can do, I guess. Rika-chama never listens even if you say no. Come on, hop in. Come on now, Rika-chama too. The old man descended from the driver's seat and opened up the sliding door of the van, which had the Onigafucha Alliance Town Council stenciled on its side. Rika-chan brushed me aside, drove into the seat, and began bouncing around right away. Daddy might be a little too far. I kind of slunked into my seat when I said that and did the Daddy might be a bit much. Dad is good. Dad is fine. Sir. Definitely sir. It seemed like she was thoroughly enjoying the bouncy springs. Come on now, Rika-chama. If you're like that, our guest can't sit down. Rika-chama! Girls are nice. I wonder if my child would play around like this, too. No! It was written in that guide that raising a child, you shouldn't dote on them. Kids are kids, if you don't raise them strictly without spoiling them.
It's soft and springy. Nipa.
Nipa. I was definitely going to be a terrible father. I just decided I'd be a doting parent before my child was even born. Well, then, sir, I'll show you around some places that I think look nice. Have you eaten lunch yet? Yeah. I had a light meal at the hotel. Thought so. Well then, let's get going.
We're setting off on a tour of Hinamizawa. Yay!
Is it alright if I call you Rika-chan?
Sure. My name is Rika Furere. I can already do addition to the 10 digits.
Oh, is that true? That's amazing.
I don't count on my fingers. I can do it all in my head.
The way she insisted upon that was just too cute. At some point, the nervousness I had about being alone in enemy territory had evaporated like it was never there at all. I had to at least be a little thankful that I met this girl. Well then, let's get going. It's time for the Hinamizawa nature watching. The old man stepped on the gas with a great deal of gusto. I like the music. It's nice. These places are familiar because I remember Katie going through them. It's good traveling music. That's Rika. Hi, Rika. Yay! She's so happy. The old man, who was apparently named Makino, was he the same Makino that was listed as the auditor of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance? Showed me around the place that was all breathtaking. Even though I wasn't really here for sightseeing, I couldn't help but be impressed. First of all, this is different from the simple scenery of a city. The scenery of a charming village like this, no matter how mundane it seemed to the villagers, was tranquil appeal to it. At first, I was only releasing the shutter as part of my tourist act, but midway through I found myself taking pictures out of pure interest. Tourist traps had their own unique allure to them, but there's nothing like that here. I was especially captivated by the unspoiled nature of the place. If there wasn't that whole uproar of the dam, I would want to bring Yuki here with me some other time. I wanted her to breathe in this fresh air. as well as show her this rejuvenating verdant scenery.
Is something like this that interesting? You're a strange person, Akasaka.
No, these cylindrical mailboxes are rare nowadays. They have a certain nostalgia air about them. You wouldn't happen to think they're elegant, would you?
Is Hinamizawa fun?
Yeah, it's fun. Once she's discharged from the hospital, I'd like to bring my wife here at least once, with a child that would be born by that time. Right now, she's in the hospital waiting to give birth. She's due any day now. It'd be nice if they're a cute girl like you. Sir, it seems that, congratulations will soon be in order. Still, that's no good. Leave your wife behind and play around in a place like this. I was momentarily at a loss for words. It was exactly as how Makino said. This is no good reason for a man who is waiting for his wife to give birth to be playing around idly in this place. Did I slip up? Well, we had already planned this trip to Hinamizawa a long time ago. My wife's family's with her, so it's all right. If you had this planned so far in advance, then how come you didn't make the sign of the deadline for the nature watching? If you did, you could have toured around in a nice bus instead of being crammed up in here. It didn't seem as Makino was actually digging for anything. But if this conversation continued any longer, it put some unexpected holes in my cover. I halted the conversation by pretending to take another picture. Well then, for our last stop, I'll take you to the place with the best view! Slightly before evening, the sun was still burning brightly, but a cool breeze had begun to mix itself into the air. It seemed my exploration of Hinamizawa with Rika-chan was just about done.
The place with the best view?
Well, Rika-chama, where else would it be the view from around the shrine? Hearing that, Rika-chan smiled even more.
Well then, I'll introduce you to my home, Akasaka.
Huh? By Rika-chan's home, you mean... Huh?
The shrine. Furude Shrine.
There's an observation platform. You can see some really pretty scenery. Furude Shrine. The girl who called Furude Shrine her home, Rika. If I remember correctly, her full name was Rika Furude. And the Furude was... That's right, one of the three families. Even if the Sonosaki family is said to hold all the actual power, it's still one of the old houses that held some authority. No, more important than that right now was Furude Shrine. If I remember correctly, Oshi had told me. Within the grounds of the Furude Shrine, there was the offices of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. Sorry, I had some really good tofu earlier. Not me personally. I had sandwiches earlier, but, Akasaka probably had some tofu. And since the lands around Furude Shrine were private property, the police couldn't step foot there heedlessly. Furude Shrine, where even Oshi couldn't simply step foot into. The main base of operations for the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. I'd been given the unexpected opportunity to enter there. Couldn't have asked for more. I'm looking forward to it. Please, if you would. Well then, let's get there quick. The weather seems to be getting a little iffy. The sky had suddenly become overcast. It wouldn't be odd if it started raining soon. The cicadas, as if trying to finish their daily allotment of chirps before the evening, cried out even more fervently. The van stopped in the shrine's parking lot. Also parked there were numerous other vans with loudspeakers mounted on the top of them as active makeshift propaganda vehicles. In the inside of each vehicle is scrawled, "The dam project must be demolished. Defend our homeland to the last. No Otoshiro-sama's anger," or a slogan of similar kind. It gave the feeling that even without using the loudspeakers, there was enough to overwhelm any onlookers. Vertical banners were erected in various places. The contents of those banners were similar. They were all objections against the dam, or crude insults towards the government. There were horizontal banners, placards, and so on and so forth. They proclaimed that without a doubt this was the headquarters of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. For Rika-chan, however, this hectic place was also her home.
We've arrived. I am home.
Rika-chan crawled over my lap and exited the vehicle first. Makino had orders that I was looking at the protest banners. The shrine also has the office of the anti-dam movement. For you, this probably brings back memories of the anti-security treaty complex back in the day. Student movements against government policies, movements that bordered on terrorist activity, were at one time commonplace, if only in the order to garner global attention. Students holding out in lecture halls, brawling with the riot squads that charged in. That was an age where wasting one's youth like that was widely considered the road to glory. It was slightly before my time. I'm not really an activist or anything. I studied without incident and graduated without incident. I don't really agree with violence or occupations they use to protest the government's policies. Oh? You have quite the nice opinion there. If you have an opinion on a policy, vote for the candidate who supports your view, or enter the political world yourself and assert your beliefs in a lawful manner. That's the foundation of democracy. I don't think that's something you should challenge with violence. For a youngin', you have some fine beliefs. I saw that feeling in the respect reflected in Mikano's eyes. At that moment, something tugged at my sleeve.
I have no idea what Akasaka is saying.
Rika-chan, feeling like she was the only one who didn't understand the conversation, had a look of displeasure on her face. The expression was so charming, I had to keep myself from grinning like an idiot. It often said that a father wants to spoil his daughter rotten. I think I understood that feeling very well. Sorry, it was a little bit hard for Rika-chan to understand, wasn't it? Japan is a peaceful country, so you have to argue your point in a peaceful manner. You shouldn't resort to violence, in other words. No matter how much I explained, the girl who had just boasting about being able to carry digits over when adding them properly wouldn't understand. Probably wasn't something to talk about in front of Rika-chan anyway.
So then, Akasaka, how do you think we should keep our village from being flooded by the dam?
Even if I regretted my careless words, it was too late now. Here I was, the main headquarters of the organization, telling them that their way of doing things was illegal, preaching that violence was not the answer. A complicated feeling had mixed itself with the respect from Makino's gaze. Then I finally realized. It wasn't that simple. It wasn't a soul who would argue that what I was saying wasn't correct. Using violence to get one's way was something that everybody knew they shouldn't be proud of. However, right now, Himatsubushi is a predicament that couldn't be overcome with peaceful means alone. The legality of the Himatsubushi Dam project, through the efforts of the various propaganda campaigns enacted of the Onikafuchi Defense Alliance, was being called into question. If they further strengthened their campaign, they might be able to suspend or change the construction plans. But that was at the most just a possibility. If the government proceeded with the construction as planned, it wouldn't be long before this place was at the bottom of a lake. If it wasn't for the unrestrained resistance of the residents of Himatsubushi, this place might already be underwater.
We can't live anywhere else other than here. We can't live in this city.
The words of this remarkably young girl were all too accurate, carrying with them the screams of the hearts and minds of the residents of Himatsubushi. Of course, there was nothing I could say to respond to that. I could only respond to Makino and Rika-chan's heavy words of silence. I'm sorry. This isn't a problem that an outsider should lightly poke their nose into, is it? I apologize. Makino, unsure of how to reply for a while, could only laugh pointlessly. It's nothing that concerns guests that make their home somewhere else. If you enjoy here, please tell all your friends that Himatsubushi is a wonderful place, please. If word spread to dozens, maybe even hundreds of people, then that ridiculous plan to submerge this place in the foot of a dam will eventually fall apart. He followed that with a smile that said, please don't think much of it. Makino letting me not worry that much really was a stroke of good fortune. Being infatuated with the idea of making friends with a little girl had made me completely forget my apprehension of being in enemy territory. Being reminded of that right before I was to step foot into their headquarters might have been a good thing. If we had this exchange in the middle of their office, there was a short-tempered youth in there. They might have come at me. Thinking of how extreme they were, in the worst case, my life would have been in danger. It seemed that I looked quite despondent at that moment. Makino, thinking he had said something wrong, became flustered, trying to think of a way to improve my mood. I was a bit careless just now. I'm very sorry. No, don't worry about it that much. The sights you showed me around the village were all beautiful, wonderful places. I really do want to come here one more time. If this beautiful village is going to be submerged at the bottom of the lake, I can understand why you fight so desperately. I can somehow manage to use my despondent look to change the topic in my favor. After a bit, Makino has returned to his usual high spirits. It seems she believes I completely sympathize with his point of view. Now, let's leave the talk of that for now. There's a place around here that's a really great view.
Let's go, Akasaka.
Rika-chan, seeming happy to be free from all the boring and gloomy adult talk, bounded up the stone steps. There was no real need to run, but in order to catch up with her, I also darted up the steps. There were several tents belonging to the town council erected at the shrine grounds. Inside the tents were several folding tables and chairs, and a number of older town council members that livened things up with chit-chat. They weren't saying anything incendiary, like the damn project must be destroyed. It's just some relaxed, idle chit-chat between local geezers. The normal sort of calming scenery. At the entrance of the shed, it looked like of a shed that looked like the meeting place, there was a huge sign erected with Onigafuchi Defense Alliance Headquarters written in broad brushstrokes. That was their base of operations. To be honest, it was a bit of a letdown. If you asked what I had been imagining, this is a little bit embarrassing, but I would have thought it would have been something more dramatic, with barbed wire fences and barricades. My first impression of the place, though, was completely different from that. It looked like a simple backwater town hall. It didn't look like anything more than exactly that. The old folks who were chatting had noticed Rika-chan's presence. "Well, isn't it, Rika-chama? It's time for little kids to head on home."
This is my home.
The old folks squawked, like, since she wasn't wrong. With that exchange, I could tell that this Rika Furide girl was loved by everyone. "Makino-san, who's that? The tourist who phoned?" "That's right. This is the mayor of Hinamizawa, Mayor Kimiyoshi." He smiled brightly, but there was no mistaking he would be scary if he got angry. By the looks of things, this old man was the president of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, none other than Kichiyori Kimiyoshi himself. "Welcome to Hinamizawa. What do you think? It's a quiet and relaxing place, isn't it?" "Yeah. I was able to appreciate a multitude of beautiful places throughout the whole day. I'm thankful for being granted this rare opportunity." Even though you're one of those youngins, you're quite the gentleman."
Kichiro, I want to show Akasaka a cool place.
Thinking that the formalities between myself and the mayor had gone on for too long, Rika-chan butted into the conversation. For her to call the mayor by his first name, I felt that was a little strange, but none of the villagers seemed to mind. A girl of the Furue household, one of the three families, she was probably different than the average villager.
Akasaka, over here.
Rika-chan tugged at my sleeve. Not resisting, I allowed myself to be pulled over, and waiting for me was a magnificent view. This is amazing. It was an observation deck that looked down at the village. They, knowing that this was the best view in the entire village, kept quiet as I stood there awestruck. I was holding a camera, but I'd completely forgotten to even glance through the viewfinder. This view, no matter what kind of film it was printed on, wouldn't be able to show everything. If there was a way to explain it, it would only be what I would be able to put into words. Such a breathtaking, spectacular view that I struggled to find a comparison. For a while I was left awestruck. I could only stand there and wonder. Cool breeze helped abate the heat rushing through my body. That comfortable sensation also left me speechless. Rika-chan, who had been holding on to my sleeve the entire time, spoke.
This is my favorite spot.
As she said that, she showed me another adorable smile. That smile seemed very fleeting. If you ask why, it's because the view from her favorite spot would eventually be submerged in the deep green waters of the dam reservoir. I can't believe that this village is going to end up at the bottom of a lake. I said it quietly so that only Rika-chan could hear it. I regretted it as soon as I did. Those words were all too cruel. However, Rika-chan didn't let them cast a cloud on her expression. In fact, she replied with a smile.
It won't sink. The dam project will definitely go away.
It was just like a little girl to say something like that. There's no basis for her saying so. It's just her wish.
Akasaka, do you think that this village will be submerged?
It's not that I want it to be. I knew how important the dam was. I knew that it was necessary. I just didn't want to recognize the sacrifices it would be made. I agreed with the project in general, but I couldn't agree with some of the details. But if it meant that this girl's beloved scenery wouldn't be taken away from her, I might be able to object to the dam. I might be able to ignore the interests of the nation, the development of Japan, all for the sake of one girl's smile. I'm not really much of a humanist, but how sentimental of me.
It won't be submerged, because the dam project will soon go away.
Her words weren't just hopes and dreams, but were seasoned with a hint of resolve. If she was talking about an unchangeable, predetermined outcome, as surely as the sun rising in the east, it will be gone soon? Wanting to ask her why she believed that, I turned around.
Yes, it will be gone.
What makes you say that?
Well, you see...
She seemed to want to answer, but as though unable to find the right words, she swallowed back what she was about to say.
Regardless of what Akasaka does, the dam project will end this year. It's already been decided.
That was a lie. If something like that had already been decided, then the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance would have no reason to continue existing. From my point of view, it was like they were doing nothing more than throwing themselves into an endless battle. If they knew the project would be cancelled, it would feel more relaxed around here. This village, though, could hardly be called relaxed. For evidence of that, I just had to remember how to change the atmosphere at the checkpoint, or at the bus stop. The villagers, with their misplaced resolve, were still fighting. And this girl, even knowing their village's grim resolve, had already declared their victory. The villagers, throwing themselves into this endless war, and this optimistic girl who said they had already won. That contrast was somehow strange. Why do you think that? If you know something that makes you that confident, could you tell me? Yuga-chan stayed silent for a while, seeming to choose what to say.
Because
Because? She looked like she was at a loss on whether she should continue or not, as if she was troubled on whether it was okay to her to say it, that kind of expression.
it's already been decided. There's no other way to say it.
It's already been decided, huh? Really is just like a little girl to say something like that. I couldn't believe it was actually true. She was the only one saying such things with such confidence. My real mission, that I had forgotten about during this fun-filled day, resurfaced at the back of my mind. The kidnapping of the minister's grandson. How the Onigofuchi Defense Alliance kidnapped the minister's grandson and already succeeded in negotiating the cancellation of the dam project? Did Kimiyoshi actually already know that and was just playing dumb? Was that what this girl is really telling me?
Akasaka?
The girl called out my name suddenly. What is it? Go back to Tokyo. Huh? I wasn't only surprised that that's sudden command. Ever since I came to this village, I had never once mentioned I was from Tokyo. Well, based on my accent, she might have been able to guess where I was from. What was I getting so worked up over? It was probably the sudden and complete change in her demeanor.
You should definitely go back to Tokyo right away. If not, you will woefully regret it.
The girl had been holding my sleeve the entire time. She had been tugging my sleeve since hurriedly dragging me to show up this wonderful view. But this was the adorable Rika who I had spent my entire day with. There was no way she could have been replaced with a doppelganger when I wasn't looking. She had been holding on my sleeve this entire time. But somehow this girl was someone other than Rika-chan. She looked like Rika-chan, but she wasn't. She was some girl I'd never met before. The girl had told me in an indifferent voice that I would eventually regret coming to this village with the bottom of my heart. That would be an incredibly pathetic thing to see, so I thought I'd warn you right now. Why would I come to regret it? Stop whining. I couldn't believe that I was hearing such cold words come from Rika-chan's mouth. I just couldn't believe it. Was someone impersonating her, using ventriloquism or something? Thinking that, I wanted to look around, but the girl's gaze had me pinned down, making me unable to move. When you tried crossing the road when the "Don't Walk" sign was up, did your parents finish explaining why it was dangerous before pulling you back to the sidewalk? They'd pull you back right away, didn't they? They'd pull you back before explaining why it was dangerous, wouldn't they? In other words, it's something like that. The girl I had spent time with, Rika Furure, would not speak like that. She would speak with cuteness befitting her age, with brief, childish remarks, expressing her emotions honestly. She definitely wouldn't speak with such pointed words. I've warned you. Don't get the wrong idea. It's not like I'm saying this because I hate you. You don't need to tell someone who's better off dead that they're in danger. Who are you? You're not Rika-chan. As soon as I accused her of not being Rika-chan, she let out a strange, quiet giggle. It was a laugh not befitting of a child of her age. It's like she was possessed by something. Her change was just that, total and complete. Was Rika-chan being attacked by some terrifying phenomena? That occult idea came to mind without any sort of hesitation. Rika-chan is acting strange. Somebody, help! Thinking that I'd yelled that, I turned to where the mayor was. I immediately realized he was looking at us with a smile. That's right, to him it looked like nothing more than me and Rika-chan fooling around. He had noticed that there was something terrifying happening to her. Akasaka is such a coward. The girl had obviously grasped that I was afraid. Noticing that and calling me a coward, she laughed again. That cackling girl approached me in a strange manner while still laughing, lost her balance and fell flat on her face. Rika-chan fell down. It was just a while before I would have extended a hand to help her without hesitation, but now, extending a hand to this ominous girl that looked like Rika-chan, but wasn't, required a little more courage than I had at the moment. Peep! The girl cried out thus. She then squirmed upright and dusted herself off. Afterwards, she looked around restlessly as a blank expression crossed her face. You've got to be kidding me! Was she making fun of me? That way of acting. It's as though, after being possessed by something, she had lost her memories of what happened. You're joking, right? Rika-chan? Beep. I don't know if Rika-chan had heard me or not. She just cried out like that, as if questioning herself. Hey, mister! Rika-chan too! Tea's ready! There's some snacks too, so please come and have some! An old lady wearing a smock was waving energetically from the entrance of the office. Hearing that there were snacks, Rika-chan's expression changed. Yay! A carefree smile. That was a familiar smile, one that belonged to the embodiment of my ideal daughter. A hint of the creepy girl that was just there, spouting sinister words, had vanished. Come on, Rika-chama! Wash your hands first! There aren't any manju here for dirty hands! I'll wash them real good! Meep! Rika-chan responded with vigor, running off to the washing station that was along the side of the office. She stopped halfway, though, around to call to me. If Akasaka doesn't hurry up, I'll eat a share of manju, too. They're steaming fresh. Huh? People who don't wash their hands aren't allowed to eat any manju. No matter how you looked at it, that was Rika-chan. Those words and the way she said them, no matter how you heard them, they were definitely Rika-chan's. Come on now, mister. You're the adult here, so show her how it's done. The old lady urged me to wash my hands. Without any resistance, I lined up beside Rika-chan at the wash station. Splish, splash. I stared at Rika-chan, intent on washing her hands properly, like she had properly learned in school. Beep? Did I do something wrong? Huh? By wrong, you mean? How I'm washing my hands. I only got 4 gold stickers for it. Probably bad at washing my hands. You're not doing anything wrong! If you're washing them that carefully, it's more than enough. But it's not, Akasaka. If you don't use a brush and clean up the dirt underneath your fingernails, you won't get a gold sticker. Rika-chan, you're very diligent. That's something to be proud of. Mipa, I was praised by Akasaka. No matter how you looked at it, it was Rika-chan. There's no trace of that girl from before. Exactly what was that sinister girl? Rika-chan, what was the meaning of what just happened now? Just now, you told me to go back to Tokyo, didn't you? Did I say that? I was at a loss for words. She didn't remember what that girl just now had said. Like I would ever believe something as occult as that would happen. Like I could ever believe that Rika-chan could be possessed by that strange girl and say those creepy things. Rika-chan, you definitely said that. Meep. Her expression told me that. Despite my saying so, she had no idea. She wasn't playing dumb. She actually didn't know. Exactly what was that just now? Just as Rika-chan had, I let a look of confusion creep across my face. The two of us, both looking like we had no idea what was going on, must have certainly been a humorous sight to behold. While partaking of tea and snacks, I was shown a propaganda film shot by the Defense Alliance that highlighted their resistance efforts. Older folks talked passionately on how long and grueling the fight against the dam was, but they fell on deaf ears. I was transfixed by Rika-chan, who had held their stories countless times, and was nodding off. Eventually, Rika-chan noticed I was staring at her, and smiled as she rubbed her eyes. That smile was Rika-chan's, after all. There was no hint of that sinister shadow. After that, my reasonable fear of Rika-chan lessened with the passing of time, but I could by no means forget what had happened. It eventually grew dark. The mayor said that they had prepared dinner, but I said I'd come again tomorrow and took my leave. I had to return to the hotel and file my regular report with the section chief. I see. Well, please come again tomorrow. If you phone, we'll send somebody to pick you up right away. I appreciate your hospitality. I'll probably come again and enjoy myself tomorrow. Yes, please do. Seems that Rika-chama has taken quite a big liking to you. Akasaka, are you coming again tomorrow? I finish after 5th period, so you could come at around 3 o'clock. That would make me happy. Please come again. That pure smile urged me to do so. There wasn't a trace of that evil aura. Depending on what happened next, all that might end up as nothing other than my hallucination. Thinking about it logically, if the daughter of the Furore household, one of the 3 families, had taken a liking to me, then this was a strong foothold for my investigation from here on out. It was like a free ticket for a reason to visit Hinamizawa. If only I could treat that little incident as a figment of my imagination, and having this girl who was the embodiment of my ideal daughter grow so attached to me wasn't bad either. I'd successfully dove into the belly of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, had the mayor as well as other important members of the alliance welcome me with open arms. This is a great turn of events. However, I still felt uneasy. Getting back to the hotel, I forced down an almost painful cold beer until I could clear my mind. The shock from the incomprehensible strange incident continued to torment me. Poor Akasaka. Poor Akasaka. That poor dude. Q-tips! Q-tips! Terrifying shrine girl! Pictures of Manju. I've had Manju before. I love Manju. Manju's good. Hey, it's the chief! It's the coach. Going smoothly. The sound of the car grew closer, followed by the sound of it braking as the engine cut out. The moment his, up until now, lackadaisical footsteps grew decisive as the man in the room dashed to the wall beside the window and carefully peered outside. It was his comrade's car. Even so, he still didn't relax his guard. Eventually, the sound of footsteps approached the door. Thump. Thump, thump, thump. It was the passcode. I'm back. Open the door already. Oh, you must be tired. Opening it now. After the locks were undone and the door opened, a man appeared, his arms laden with swollen plastic grocery bags. The bags in his hands had 7 marks written on them, with bread and milk cartons able to be glimpsed within. The contents of those bags were then spread out over a sheet on the floor. I brought some cup noodles, so go boil some water. What's the kid doing? He's been sleeping the entire time. Thank God he's not causing any trouble. He did struggle a bit when he was about to shit himself. Well, don't let him grab his pants. It'd suck if it started to smell like an outhouse in here. Yeah, I know. Check the gag every now and then. You don't want to get loose, so keep it tight. But not too tight that he stops breathing. I said I know. Huh? Didn't I ask you to pick up another can of gas for the portable stove? We're out. You never asked, you idiot. Yeah, seriously? Come on. Damn it. He rattled the portable stove as he struggled to get it to light. Seeing that, the man who went by his supplies let out a deep sigh, and with a backwards glance at that sight, began to walk to the corner of the room. The kidnapped boy was sprawled out on a sheet that was spread out on the floor. Boy, you doing okay? Of course, the man didn't assume the kid was able to hear the question. That was because the boy's ears were plugged, with his eyes and ears thoroughly covered by packing tape. Also, his mouth was gagged with a thin, twisted-up towel. Because of that, the boy was unable to close his mouth properly. His cheeks sticky with his own saliva. Of course, that wasn't the only reason. Both his arms were tied behind his back with a leather belt. Seem to be doing okay. At least you're not gonna die. If your grandpa wanted to play tough, we might have to lop off an ear, but it'd be great if we don't have to. If the main family says we do, though, tough luck. Can't even imagine what kind of cruel things they'd have us do. The family says no one scratches on him now, so it seems to be going well for the time being. The minister has discreetly withdrawn the dam project. The Himatsubushi-hen dam is indefinitely postponed. I wonder when we'll be letting the boy go. I want to be done with this already. The main family says to be gauging the timing. I don't know where it'll be, but probably soon. Isn't that great, kid? You'll be able to go real soon. The men didn't know if their voices were heard by the boy. For him, there was nothing he could do but continue to sleep to escape his harsh reality. More importantly, what are we going to do with that gas? We can eat the cup noodles raw. If we're out of gas, say something, jeez! It's a very lackadaisical, fucking, lackadaisical, kidnappers. I realize they were only doing it for political reasons, but, yeah. Why I like rainy days. The weather forecasters predicted it wouldn't rain at all this entire week. It's not that I hate sunny days or anything. When every day is the same, unchanging sunny weather, however, anybody can long for a rain cloud or two. Simply clear skies for a week, a month, a year, anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. The weather specialist said that they had carefully scrutinized a large quantity of past data, so it wouldn't be likely for the forecast to be wrong. I knew as much. But even then, there was occasionally a day where I was hoping that it would be wrong, as I stared at the clear blue sky. Was I being mischievous in hoping so? I waited and waited, feeling almost suffocated by the boring blue sky undisturbed by a single cloud. If you could die from that suffocating feeling, then the population of the Earth probably wouldn't have increased to this point. In other words, the only person who was being suffocated by this was me. And so, I welcomed the summer evening when not even the weather forecast could predict the sudden shower. If I were to explain it like this, would you understand it a bit more about how I feel? Let's say that tonight's dinner was going to be curry rice. But when you called down the dinner table, what was waiting for you was instead eggplant and bell pepper stir-fry. It's just on your mother's whim, by the way. I would be delighted by such whimsy. I don't really like eggplants or bell peppers, but still, I'd be delighted. The fact that the pre-established routine of curry rice had been broken would be amusing. If tonight was repeated 100 times you had to eat curry rice, Yet for just this one night, that had changed to an eggplant and bell pepper stir fry. There's no way you couldn't enjoy that change happening. I hate pre-established routines. I really hate when things are all decided beforehand. I have no love for boredom. I always get my hopes up that something today will be different than yesterday, no matter how trivial. It's been decided this entire week starting today was going to be clear skies. The weather forecast decided upon it, so the god of weather must feel obligated to do so. But who's to say that a rain cloud might not just show up one day on a whim? It's something that nobody can say for sure, but because that the thought remains in this world, a creature such as myself can continue living without being suffocated. Tomorrow will probably be a hot and clear day. However, I'm the only one who knows that predetermined fate, even if it's a slim 1% chance, sometimes changes. Hoping for that 1%, I hung up upside down weather chimes on my sunlit eavesdrops. In the end, I spend my days waiting for those unexpected things in my life to happen. I ponder why I was hoping for it. Was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. I've had my fill of clear skies. Then why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. The fact that I was going to be sunny tomorrow was boring. So why was I hoping for a rain cloud? In the end, it doesn't really matter whether it rains or shines tomorrow. Basically, it's just that the rain would water my heart, which was withered from boredom. That's why, rather than a TV drama where the plot's already been decided, I prefer to look up at the sky. Barley tea, black tea, and millstone. And we'll call it a night. Your blood pressure has improved. For you to recover this quickly at your age, I'm rather impressed. At this rate, you'll still be kicking after a couple hundred more years, Oyu-san. The young doctor in his medical coat said that as he undid the blood pressure cuff from the arm of the old woman tucked away in her futon. You're a very good physician, Dr. Irie. If a persistent old fart like me doesn't hurry up and die, I'll just be in the way of you young folk. Ho, 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 ho. The old lady, Oryu, laughed faintly with a broad smile on her face. Then, turning towards the sliding door, she called out in a strong voice. Is Shimiko-san or Takeo-san here? Bring some tea for Dr. Irie. The sound of rushed footsteps from the hallway drew closer, until finally the door slid smoothly open. What it revealed was a young girl. It looked like the old lady's granddaughter. Shimiko-san already left for the day. Do you need something? Mion, make some barley tea for Dr. Irie. Okay, got it. Do you want some too, Granny? Or would black tea be better? Want lots of milk and sugar? I'll measure it out myself, so you don't have to put any in. Just bring the sugar jar and some milk when you bring the tea. KK! The girl, named Mion, after giving a rather uninterested response to her taskmaster of a grandmother, returned to the hallway. Pour the doctor's tea in the cup for the guests, and make sure you bring a coaster too. Also make sure to dry the outside of the glass, okay? Yeah, you're such a fussy pants. A tired voice wafted a reply from down the hallway. The apathetic tone of voice was far from unusual. The old lady let a wry smile slip across her face as she chided the girl. Geez, that girl just won't learn. Nothing I ever scold her about sticks. Now, Oryo-san. You don't have to say that. Mion-chan is doing her best in her own way. Even though she's so young. Her mother was the same way. Couldn't teach her anything. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So her mother's mother must be the exact same, no? The old lady burst out laughing. Her expression showed she hadn't taken the comment the wrong way. Dr. ADA, I'm sorry, but could you open the doors for me? Seems there's a nice cool breeze outside. The cool chirping of the Higurashi had at some point started licking through the gap in the doorway. ADA stood up and opened the door a bit. A refreshing breeze pushed out the stale air that had been building up in the room. It's gotten fairly hot during the day, but the evenings are still rather cool, aren't they? It was almost downright chilly last night. Yes, those types of mornings and evenings are one of Hinamazawa's fine points, ADA replied with a smile, as he returned to sit on the cushion beside the old lady, and then the two of them, for a little while, soaked in the voices of the Higurashi. I'm going to try and live to 100. Until the business with the dam is properly finished, I ain't kicking the bucket just yet. To get to the government to withdraw a decision they've already made is a fairly difficult thing to do. The way this country does things is like turning a millstone. A heavy one at that. A millstone. Don't you know? A millstone. Idia quickly affirmed that of course he knew what the old lady was talking about. He knew full well that Onryo didn't like having her stories interrupted. This millstone, see, can grind anything to a pulp. It's rather impressive, but you see, it doesn't turn that easily because it's a rather heavy millstone. Lots of people have to work in unison to get it to even budge. It's that type of millstone. Idia pursed his lips, listening quietly to what she was saying. Eventually, Mion returned with some tea laid out on a tray. Seeing that Ori was talking in a good mood, she quietly knelt down and laid out the sets with the barley and black tea, careful not to interrupt. That's why, when it gets going, it's not that easy to stop. It takes the most effort to move it right before it starts turning. Everybody hates that, so everybody keeps pushing it along without rest. You're talking about the friction, right? I get what you're saying. So in other words, if there's some sort of mistake and the millstone suddenly stops turning, to get it turning again takes a great deal of power, more or less. Certainly, to get a project that's been suspended going again takes a lot of work. It's a millstone that isn't easily stopped, but once it's stopped, it will never turn again. It's that kind of millstone. It'd be nice if there was some way... Yeah! I like the voice I'm doing for the grandma. It'd be nice if there's some way to get that millstone to stop, wouldn't it? When Idia responded with that, Mion and the old lady suddenly sunk into silence. Idia, instinctively thinking he had said something rude, searched in a small panic for the words to correct himself. But that silence wasn't the result of rude words. For what crept across the Mion and the old lady's faces were contemptuous smiles. The atmosphere surrounding Idia suddenly froze, leaving him flabbergasted. Thinking that the scornful smiles creeping across their faces were the result of some mistake of his, he could only grow afraid. It hadn't been that long since he had been enveloped by silence. However, unable to stand it, Idia could only let out a small, weak laugh. Idia's laugh eventually spread to Mion and the old lady. Not knowing exactly what they were laughing at, their laughter left a lingering chill. The only ones not laughing were the Higurashi, who continued their simple and unchanging chorus. It's like a solid snake if he was an old... Otacon. Otacon. now whenever Mike and I play fucking goddamn fucking Metal Gear, I'm gonna have to do that voice for Snake. Just do old lady Onryu's voice. With that, I think I'm gonna call it a night. That was a lot of fun. And tomorrow I'll be streaming some more. May the Higurashi lull you into a gentle sleep.